but like, our YouTube page.
David, do you want my phone on ring? In case you need to ring it?
No, it's worth it. No one knows about it. You guys can get drinks away. Steven's sharing it on wait, it doesn't update. It froze again. Can you see it?
It's freezing, which is because of the
Okay, good morning, everybody. I'm David Swan, I'm the chair of the NEC, and these are the general body members of the NEC. Great, so let me go over a little bit about what today the procedure is going to be, and then we'll start the hearing. So obviously we're here today to determine whether or not violations have been made of the FPC, the Fair Practices Code. So the order today, a couple things to do. But really remember that this is not a trial. No one's going to be like convicted or found guilty. It's a hearing just to determine whether or not it's a binary question of whether or not a violation of the FPC has been made. So with that, so the way that the order of the day is going to work is that first we'll have first presentation which can be extended by majority vote of the NEC members for question and answer. If questions expire before the time does, then the time. So NEC members will be asking questions. Members of the general public can also ask questions. Anytime you have a question during the Q&A period, please raise your hand and direct it towards the moderator who will be sitting at the front. And he will keep the queue. And then NEC members will be, for the purpose of this process, they'll have priority, but we'll still be hearing members of the general public's questions as well. I just remind everyone that there should be no back and forth. So between accusers and defendants, between members of the public asking defendants or accusers questions, between the NEC and everyone involved. Just please remember that, again, let's try to keep it somewhat under control. Silence is really appreciated during these type of things, so everyone can have their voice heard. Let's try not to make it a circus. And then following that first set of accusations and defenses, then we'll move into the second set of charges, which is presented by Jake Cohen, grievance officer, on behalf of the NEC against Connor Wright. Then we'll have the defense by Connor Wright, and then again 25 minutes of Q&A, both from members of the NEC and the general public for that charge. Any other questions? No? Okay, great. So we're going to begin with the first accusations, which again are being presented by Matthew Schnitzer against Jack Talley. So, yeah, so now Jake, so for the purpose of the first presentation, because their accusations being made by like a member of the general public against another member, a candidate against a candidate, and not by the NEC. So Jake Cohen, the grievance officer, is going to be the one moderating discussion, keeping the queue for question and answer. And then for the second set of accusations, which are being brought by the NEC, I, as the chair, will be keeping that queue and moderating that discussion, just so that when we switch places halfway through the day, you understand why. So, okay. And then for purposes of witnesses, if accusers or defendants are bringing witnesses, witnesses can speak or be brought up during your respective time blocks for your presentation of accusations and defense. And then they also, if you are a witness, you're also subject to be questioned by the NEC and members of the general public during the 25 minutes of question and answer time. Just to be aware. So with that, let's get started. So Matt,
Schnitzer goes first. Set up on that.
If you want to switch to, it's fine.
Someone want to help us? There we go.
All right, good morning, everybody. My name is Matthew Schnitzer. This is a post that Jack Talley posted into the official Class of 2020 Facebook group. And as we can see, the post out of context looks by itself pretty innocent, but if you look here, there are blatant similarities to official campaign materials. On the left is a campaign poster for Jack. And we can see that these photos were clearly taken at the same time with the same intent, which I think proves pretty reasonably that this was all campaign material that was gathered together with the intent of presenting it as campaign material. Next we have comments, and this is, I'll give it a little bit gray. Here under that first post we have a comment, Jack Talley for president, which we can see Jack Talley clearly liked. There's another one, so cute, both of my faves and two right leaders, indirect campaigning, and finally, up top on the right, there's another comment under a post that said, vote for Jack. Whether or not these are true surrogates and whether or not they operated with Jack Talley's knowledge that they were going to, it's clear that Jack Talley understood that this happened. And we can see that he acknowledged one of these comments by liking it, and so in doing so, obviously didn't do what was within his action to have campaign-related material taken down from the Facebook page, as is required by Clause 7A2 of the FPC. Next, we see that Jack must have understood at some point that something he did was wrong. The screenshot on the left was taken before my complaint was filed, and the screenshot on the right shows after. We can clearly see that Jack Talley unliked that comment in that time. Finally, we have the impact. The post garnered 201 likes, which is approximately 8% of the potential voter pool, and likely a far higher percentage of actual voters, which is enough to get somebody's name out there and to, I think, greatly impact the results of the election. That's all I have. I think it speaks for itself.
You don't like these pictures. Good morning, everyone. My name is Jack Talley, and as you may know, I'm the defense in this hearing, providing my defense against Mr. Schnitzer's case. I'd actually first like to thank Mr. Schnitzer. I think the rules of this election are very important to ensure fair student government election, and the fact that he is drawing it into question is a very important point. But although he's drawn it into question, I'm confident that I'm innocent and have not violated the FPC, and that's what I will show to you this morning. I'd also like to thank the NEC for the work they do to maintain a fair election. So, I would just like to address a few of the points Mr. Schnitzer made before moving into my own reasons why I'm innocent. One of the things you posted was I didn't even see much of the comment. It was someone named MJ Kong posted something about the Nittany Lions. First of all, I never saw that post to begin with. Second of all, I have no idea why he would post "vote for Jack Talley" or like reply to something. I didn't see what someone even commented. I have no idea why he would do that. Just want to clarify, I've never seen that. If it had ever been brought to my attention that MJ Kong replied to someone's comment with a "vote for Jack Talley" on a post that appeared to be about the gym, I think. If I had been prompted by the NEC about that, if a friend of mine or if MJ himself came up to me and said that, I would have been like, dude, not okay, gotta take that down. But yeah, that's something I never saw. Additionally, you did say that there was a obvious thing where I liked it at the time you took the screenshot and then unliked it. One of my points was I unliked it as soon as I became aware of this potentially being an FPC violation, which was literally last night. So, I mean, I liked it at the time, unliked it as, I guess, just for good measure. Not that it would, the post has been gone, or the post has been buried in the Facebook page for quite a while now, so that was just a matter of good measure. I'm not going to try to say, oh, I liked it at one point and then immediately unliked it. So yeah, it was liked at the time that you took the screenshot. So, my first main defense argument is that posting these photos is in no way an act of campaigning. Let me just comb through my evidence for a little while. Yeah, alright. So here is my post. The same thing, same post that Matthew Schnitzer used to send us. I want you to take a look at the caption on the post. It says, "We've been longtime friends, me and Ben Frank. You might recognize this as a popular rap lyric from the song Jordan Belfort." So, no references to class board, no references to student government, no references to my campaign, or any of that. And then I give a photo credits to Sam Eichenwald. Sam Eichenwald should be here shortly. He's a photographer, he's done work for Newsweek, and since coming to Penn, he's been trying to gain exposure. He's photographed for Wharton Latino, Black Wharton, and many other campus groups, and eventually did end up photographing for other people, other candidates. But at this point, when I had asked Sam to take the photos for me, it was in half just because I wanted to get him exposure. He's one of my good friends. I know he takes wonderful photographs, and I saw. Well, you know, I'll wait till he gets here because he says on his way. So yeah, No references to class board or anything. Another thing I want to point out is I'm going to go to what we call the candidate packets for this election. Oh, one minded. Okay. Here we see the certification of candidacy, including our candidate packets. This was attached. This was released on, I believe, maybe September 7th, and it was attached to the files where you need to get all your signatures. It also included the spending. One line I want to point to is where it says, "I further certify that I have read and do understand the most recently updated version of the Fair Practices Code in the candidate packet and agreed to conduct my campaign in full accordance with the FPC." This certification was to be submitted by September 14th at 5 p.m. At 5 p.m. or earlier with all of your signatures. Before this submission, someone intending to run for class board is not actually an official candidate. Now, this doesn't mean that you go around violating the FPC before the candidates meeting, where everyone is like, where you sign a piece of paper and you're like, "Yep, I've read the FPC. I'm an official candidate. Like, let's get into the monetary campaigning tomorrow." That doesn't mean you go around violating it. There were some certain basic tenets of the FPC that I understood. Like, I had heard no campaigning on the class Facebook page. Of course. I posted a funny photo kissing Ben Franklin. I did not mention my campaign in the post. But there are some intricacies of the FPC, like rules regarding surrogates, specifically what defines a surrogate. And at this point, I would like to call Sejong Chung, the man who made the comment, Jack Talley, for class president on September 10th. If I'm calling a witness, do I just kind of like chat with him here? Is that like...
Come up to the front.
All right.
Give this
So, Sejong,
Yes.
when you saw my post of that said, "We've been longtime friends, me and Ben Frank," me miraculously climbing up the Ben Franklin statue and kissing him right on his lips,
Yeah.
what did it first strike you as?
So like, I just commented that because I knew it was like a long-running joke since Jack and I were both admitted like early decision for Penn, and like in the group me's Jack's always just like posting random stuff. So like it's been a joke that like Jack should run for class president, and like my comment was also just kind of a joke, like in that fashion.
So when you saw the post, did you think of it as like, oh yeah, here's Jack's campaign, or here's Jack posting another funny meme?
I thought it was just Jack posting more stupid stuff on the Facebook page.
Do you think that, did it strike you that that's what most people took it as?
Yeah, I assume so. I mean, like no one takes like stuff posted on the Facebook page that seriously.
Did I ever solicit you, or did we even talk about the fact that I was actually becoming an official candidate for class president before you made that comment?
I mean, never anything official. Like again, like always just like played around with the like idea.
But maybe,
of it.
yeah, maybe you'd heard I was flirting
Yeah,
with
yeah,
the idea of
exactly.
running for it, but it's not like,
Nothing
I don't think
official.
you hadn't even signed my,
Yeah, I don't think I ever
Form.
did. I don't think I signed any of those.
yeah. So, is it also true that while maybe drawing into question how serious it was, that you and fellow Huntsman program member Zach Sweeney ended up running your own campaign for class president?
Yeah, that was like pretty much a joke also, but yeah, we did run a campaign, and we did actually ask people to like write us in.
And how many likes does your Facebook page have? Around like 100,
Yeah, it was
90
quite a few. I'm gonna say it was impressive.
Yeah. So is it fair to say that anything you posted regarding your own campaign, regarding joking about someone else running, was not intent to campaign?
No, not at all.
Thank you. Now, so I know some people may draw into question the whole idea of like action versus intent. Saying I was joking around, but I did in fact like the post. I don't remember liking it. It could have been accidental. It could have been on purpose. It was like a long time ago at this point. But what I will say is that, again, when he was commenting, I was not an official candidate for class board yet. This was 4 days before the candidates meeting even occurred. This was 4 days before I signed the agreement acknowledging that I had read the entirety of the FPC. And with that, I would like to transition to a few other posts. Where's the master? So here we have a post from August 29th from someone actually sitting in the audience tonight, or today, who will be defending himself later, Connor Wright, who posted just a short blurb about, hey everyone, I'm running for class president. You want to chat? Make the right choice. Now, if I, at this point, had some awareness that campaigning on the Facebook page is not necessarily allowed, but there's no expectation that Connor would have at that point. So, someone noticed this, probably notified the NEC at the, I think it was the student government info session, and the NEC reached out to Connor and was like, hey, you know, can you take this down? And he did, and all went well, because this was before Connor was an official candidate. I didn't even post about the campaign. Mine was, my post itself, for one, I never reused any of the 4 photos in that post in any campaign materials. I think it's a little bit ludicrous to say that photos taken within the same hour, if you use them in a campaign, like, that counts. I mean, what if I use my 8th grade school picture in a campaign post? Does that mean that my school photo shoot from 8th grade, or that my class picture from 8th grade is campaign materials? I'm just wondering how far back you want to go. And I know even, now that I think about it, I know even I myself, I think I made a post over the summer when I was introducing my bio, saying that I would be interested in running for class board. Are we going to, now that's a direct mention of class board, but we're going to retroactively maybe go back 2 months, dig up that post, and get rid of it? I don't think anyone has seen that in months or would consider it any form of campaigning. And just to argue against Mr. Schnitzer's point about how it's like framed as looking like a campaign thing, I just want to refer to another piece of evidence from, I think, another member of the audience, Bradley Smith. This was taken, this is a photo that he and his running mate, Jordan Meacham, presumably took on September 5th and posted on the class Facebook page on September 5th. And it's a very nice photo of the two of them. You guys are very attractive people. In front of the Love UPenn, of the love sign, and it gives a little hashtag Love UPenn with the heart eyes. Now this is fine. There's nothing here involving his campaign. It is a nice picture of the two of them. Maybe people had known that they were flirting with the idea of running, but at the same time, he's doing nothing more than showing his appreciation for our school, and also, you know, maybe putting himself out there to get to know people. Me, my motivation was, as it kind of always has been on the Facebook page, make some funny posts. I was the guy that, I don't know if any of you were ED, dressed up in the Dunkin' Donuts costume, and made that like competition, and maybe I posted a few memes when people were accepted ED and RD. Some people laughing, sometimes people appreciate them. So, and when I had the discussion with people before I posted, it was, hey, yo, how funny is this picture of me kissing Ben Franklin? Like, wouldn't it be funny to post this on the Facebook page? And they're like, yeah, go for it. And someone suggested I use Jordan Belfort as a rap lyric to put on. Now, just to get into the technical side of stuff, I'm going to reference a few lines of the FPC contained on this slide. A surrogate is any individual who works on behalf of a candidate with the candidate's knowledge to aid in that candidate's election to the undergraduate assembly. Again, I will refer to the fact that this post and the time at which I liked Sejong's funny comment on my post was 4 days before anyone became an official candidate. So that's something to note. Another important point is where it says, candidates are responsible for understanding the FPC prior to the candidates meeting. The vice chair for elections of the NEC may choose to review any rules pertaining to the elections at this meeting, including additions to and or clarifications of the FPC. So for one, this kind of refers to what I mentioned in the campaign, or in the candidates packet, that while no one should go around recklessly campaigning or before they're an official candidate, the actual understanding of all the intricacies of the FPC and what is necessary to follow the FPC is required by September 14th at 5 p.m. Additionally, one of the notes in here where it says the vice chair of the election for the elections of the NEC may choose to review any rules that pertain any rules pertaining to the elections at this meeting, including additions and or clarifications to the FPC. I know anyone who was at the candidates meeting, there were a lot of questions asked. And afterward, clarifying all the questions that we had. So by this fact, the whole code of what we were to obey by was not, like for this year, for these new student elections this fall, wasn't even finalized until after the candidates meeting. So that's just something to consider. Additionally, there's under E, there's point 4 where it says candidates shall sign a statement confirming that they have read and understand the FPC and shall abide by all rules laid out at the candidates meeting. Until this document is signed and handed in, no candidacy shall be official. So any point where the FPC refers to surrogacy, acknowledging comments of someone who is supporting your campaign, I not consider, this was 4 days before I could even be considered a candidate. I don't think it would be logical to retroactively consider Sejong a surrogate for my campaign when 1, he didn't even know I was going to be a candidate for sure, 2, he had no intent to support my campaign, he only intended to joke around with it. And 3, the actual FPC states that no one becomes a candidate until the 14th. Now, very briefly, just to finish my case, I'm going to call a witness. Sam, I can stand on this side.
Michael was also listed as one of my witnesses. He wasn't here during my case. Can I ask him one question after Jeb?
Yeah, they both asked me to.
He wasn't here during your presentation, so unfortunately.
Okay.
Woke up late, sorry.
So Sam, what would you consider the motivation for us going out and taking these photos after seeing some other people post some of those photos on the Facebook page?
It was really like, we had seen, as you said, we had seen people posting pictures. You were like kind of thinking about like, oh, I want a LinkedIn shot. So originally we were just kind of like going out with the mindset of like, let's get some nice pictures for Jack, because who knows what he'll need them for.
And of course you did know I was like kind of flirting with the idea of running. And
yeah, but like, there was nothing really super official yet, and the pictures weren't in any way linked with that. Also, like, almost immediately, we just started taking like stupid pictures.
Like, did one of our friends walk by?
Yeah, we had one of our friends walk by, and we just started taking like really stupid, like, sort of like posing pictures. He went under the button and like
I went under the
like
button.
this.
I did go under the button.
It was.
Now, did any of the photos that appeared, either of these two, a variety of the other ones, or the photos I posted on the Facebook page, did any of those ever appear in anything related to my campaign? Sure.
Not that I am aware, no.
Okay.
The post on the page was like, he posted a page
Yeah, because
Jack just thought it would be funny to post a picture of him like making out with the Ben Franklin statue because like he's a funny guy, and it's not abnormal for him to be like, yo, I'm gonna post this thing in the page and be like, oh yeah, that'll get a few laughs.
Alright.
So
Well, thank you, Sam. I'm glad you can make it. And I'm going to rest my case with this wonderful picture on the projector. Thank you.
Now we'll move into 25 minutes of Q&A, both from members of the NC and then members of the general public. If you have a question, please just raise your hand and keep your hand raised until Jake Cohen at the front of the room nods and like looks at you.
So I'll be taking a cue once if I like make eye contact with you, sort of give you a little nod or like point to you, then you put your hand down. Does anybody have questions about how that'll work before we start?
And will the candidates, or will the accuser, presenters, please, accuser and the defense, please like, stand in front of the room
We're
so that they can.
one at a time. Victoria, you can start.
Yeah, this question for Jack, did you reach out to, C and Cheng and ask them to take it down after September 14th, the comment?
I did not, because for one, I forgot that that comment even existed. I don't think many of us remember something we posted 4 days ago on Facebook, especially not comments on it. Again, if I had been reached out to by someone from the NBC like Connor was when he made a post about his campaign, I would have readily taken it down. And again, it would have required me to scroll back. There are 5-10 posts a day on this Facebook page. This post had not been at the forefront of the Facebook page at least since morning or early afternoon the day after I posted it. So that's over a 3-day gap between when this was posted, when I became a candidate and had the full understanding of the FPC. So again, I guess I was just not aware of its existence anymore. I didn't think much of it.
Jack?
So for Jack, so that picture of Bradley Smith that you sent in that group me, who did you send it to and like why did you send that?
I sent that just because, like, I don't even remember which group me. Oh, it was in a group chat of friends from a pre-orientation program, and I said something along the lines of, I think the discussion was about, like, oh, who's thinking about running for class board, and I'm like, oh, I was like, Bradley and Jordan mentioned, and people were like, maybe like, who are Bradley and Jordan, and I like was like, oh, here, they've just posted on the Facebook page, they posted this like love UPenn thing, but I never said like, this is I was never trying to say like, Bradley and Jordan are campaigning on the Facebook page, because they're not, they're just saying love UPenn.
But you related.
Wait. You're on the queue. I'll call it.
Okay.
Sorry. Matt.
Okay, I have a question for Sion, actually. You said that you did not know that Jack was an official candidate or would be an official candidate, and then Jack said that you did not know you were going to be a candidate, that he was going to be a candidate for sure. My question is, when you commented vote for Jack, did you know that Jack had the intention to become a candidate and that people would be able to vote for him in the future?
I mean, like, you can get caught up in the semantics of this, but I think in the end, Jack wasn't an official candidate.
That's not my question.
So like, well, I understand your question. It doesn't really make sense to me. I don't think it pertains. But if what you're trying to ask is whether I knew that my comment would have consequences, I didn't know that was an FPC violation. I didn't know I was not allowed to do that.
No crosstalk. No crosstalk, please.
Can I clarify my
Yeah,
question?
you can clarify.
Okay, so for future reference, so everybody knows, if someone asks you a question, you can request that they clarify the question, and I can approve them to request the clarification, just so we don't have any crosstalk back and forth. Yes, please clarify your
Okay,
question.
my question specifically is, did you know that Jack had the intent to become an official candidate in the future when you commented?
No, it was still ambiguous.
Next we have Austin.
Pat.
Alright,
So this one's actually for Matt, because I know that one of the, kind of the, I guess, biggest argument that you were making, I'm not gonna order them in any. One of the arguments you made, was that there's essentially a connection between campaign materials, such as the candidate statement that Jack provided, which was a picture of him next to the Ben Franklin statue, and the ones posted on Facebook. And part of Jack's defense was that, it wasn't an exact photo, and that it was just kind of taken in the same area. What do you think is kind of like a reasonable amount of like variance that we should allow? Why should that specifically be considered, whereas another photo of just like someone in front of the love statue shouldn't be considered?
I think it's about intent and the way that the pictures were used. Obviously, if it was an 8th grade yearbook photo like Jack was talking about, that wouldn't be considered I wouldn't consider that campaign material. That'd be no problem. But the way I see it, he went out with the intent of creating images to use for something like this, if not necessarily this. And so the images are kind of inherently linked in that case. If it's slightly different, that's fine, but same clothes, same general position, I think there's too much of a parallel.
Go ahead.
Yeah, so the question from the top row that came a few minutes ago, the first one, about why you didn't readdress the surrogate campaigning after you filed in September 14th, I think it was. You claimed that you forgot about the post, so I'm curious, how come you unliked it more recently?
Easy.
Given that you had forgotten entirely about the post.
I didn't forget entirely about the post that I made. I forgot, I had no clue what the comments were. I couldn't, if someone asked me what comments were on your Ben Franklin post, I have no idea. If they asked what comment, campaigning was a busy time. If they asked, what comments did you like on your post? I would have also said, I had no idea, that was 4 days ago. I haven't seen it on the Facebook page in at least 3 days. But you were asked, why did I go and unlike it? Because I got that email, that nice little email that said charges are being filed about possible surrogates on the Facebook page as a mode of campaigning. And so yeah, at that point I was made aware of it. Again, I was like, oh shoot, I forgot about that thing. Maybe I should, just for good measure, go and unlike it. I knew that unliking it wasn't going to do anything. Just a matter of, because at that point the elections were over, so I'm like, okay, I'll unlike it.
I'll put you on the queue, sorry.
Sorry, Jack, you said you took those photos because they're quite funny. I mean, they are quite funny. Something that anyone could appreciate. If that's so, why didn't you just post it on your wall instead of targeting a select audience that was the voting base?
Oh my, I mean, I think anyone who's been in the Facebook, the Penn Facebook group since early decision can say, whenever there's something funny Penn related I encounter, I post it straight onto that group. It's a place where I've found a lot of humor myself about Penn, where I've had the opportunity to share some, whether it be like a meme I made or found, or again, being asked to dress up in a Dunkin' Donuts costume at the early decision day, post up that picture. That's funny, because I mean the rest of my friends who don't go to Penn, who aren't tied with Penn, they don't really have much reason to see that. So yeah, I was targeting the audience because I thought it was the audience that would find it most funny, as I always have since I was accepted.
Thomas.
If I recall correctly, this is gonna become a question. If I recall correctly, the candidates, and if I'm not mistaken, 100% of them signed the certificate of the acknowledgement of candidacy at the meeting, at the candidates meeting, which was September 14th.
Yes.
Did you sign yours prior to that, or at the actual meeting?
There was, okay, so part of, I remember we signed that like what was it, quarter sheet of paper?
Mm-hmm.
I signed that, and then there was also what I put on the board, one of the pages of the candidate packet.
Oh, were they different?
Yeah, there were two. I think we had to sign two things, and I signed both that evening, and that was, again, that was the point at which, I think I read the FPC that day. That was the point at which I acknowledged that I knew all the intricacies of the FPC. I knew all the laws about surrogacy and stuff like that, and signed off on it. And after that, I was an official candidate.
Matthew Schnitzer.
So, when you saw the picture of Jordan and Bradley, you didn't associate that at all with their campaign?
No, I mean, I didn't associate with their campaign. I associate with two individuals who I had met at the same government info session that night, and I had said, again, it's like, these two people are thinking about campaign. Bradley is one of my friends who I've known since early decision. So I figured, yeah, I was sharing a nice photo of him and his friend Jordan, people I met. I met Jordan that night after the same government info session. I was like, oh, I chatted with him on Locust Walk, and here's this thing that I posted.
Right, Victoria?
Yeah, so, we can talk more about section 2 about understanding the FPC before the actual candidates meeting, right? So, did you ever ask Ally about whether or not, like, this counted as a type of campaigning, like, at the candidates meeting? Or had you, like, how far in advance had you read the FPC?
Again, I read the FPC like the day, I read the like, I knew some basic things, like, again, no talking about your campaign on the Facebook page, which I never did. I never, in my language, on the post or anywhere, have mentioned my campaign on the Class of 2020 Facebook page. Now, so that was something I had a basic understanding about. Other intricacies, like, when someone comments jokingly about a potential class board campaign they don't even know about without being solicited by me, and then once that person becomes a candidate 4 days later, does that count as like retroactive surrogacy, or it's like, where do you draw the line on that? Like, if he commented when I wasn't a candidate, I liked it when I wasn't a candidate, just 4 days later, does that become? But no, I never asked Ally about it because at that point, this was not in the forefront of my mind. This was something that I didn't even think of it as an issue or a non-issue. It just never came to my mind because there was a comment on my Facebook post. And then 4 days later, I was like, all right, cool, I'm ready to go campaign. I'm gonna follow all these rules. But did I remember, or did it come to mind, Sejong's comment that was a joke? Not at all. So that's why I didn't ask, because, and no one else ever raised issue about it, like with Connor's post. If someone had raised issue, I would have taken it down promptly on the 14th.
David?
Sure, so I have 4 questions, but I'll get back on the queue to ask all those 3. So this is to Jack. Do you remember any reference to Ben Frank in the candidate packet, which you would have received days before?
Any reference to Ben Frank? Not. Ben Frank as in my post, or
Like the phrasing Ben Frank. Oh, you know that.
in the candidate packets itself, like with the signatures and stuff, or in the FPC, or
In the election guide, the candidate packet in the election guide.
the one that went up when? When was this?
It was been released
The 7th?
December 6th.
Just taking a brief look at it, I have it on hand here. I'm gonna say no, I don't remember any references to it, and I don't know if there are any. This is what I have, I have the spending form, which has no references to Ben Frank. I have the signatures form, which again has no references to Ben Frank.
It's I was talking about the candidate forms and the new student election guide that were released together.
Oh, the new student election guide?
Yeah.
No, I don't have that on hand, and, okay.
Right, just so everybody knows, if I have acknowledged you, you are on the queue is 13 people long right now, so I will get to you, I promise. Okay, now, I'm trying to leave your text.
Question for Matt. At what point did you correct these charges, and why did you decide to do that?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
At what point did you decide to correct these charges, and why did you decide to do that?
I decided to submit these charges when I was turning in my spending form, because that was the timeline for turning in violations. Why did I decide to? I thought that this should be a level playing field, and, there were 6 candidates at the beginning of this. 4 of them didn't have anything that you could even call ambiguous in the Facebook group or anything like that, and I thought that had Jack won, that it would have felt unfair to me, and I would have felt like I had.
Think that it was an FPC violation, and when did you make it clear to NEC that you thought it was a violation? That's 3 separate questions.
I think I became aware of the picture a few days after it was posted. I think somebody showed it to me. At that point, I questioned whether or not it was an FPC violation, but I wasn't sure. It was only upon reading the FPC pretty closely, closer to the end of the election, that I realized I thought it was a violation.
Lucas?
So this is a question for Suyon, to a Facebook page titled Jack Talley for President, or was it simply a statement, Jack Talley for President?
I don't think any Facebook page existed at the time, so it was just a comment from myself. No link to anything.
Yeah.
Austin?
I'm just trying to clarify the question, Jack. I'm just trying to clarify the timeline that you mentioned, it's some basic understanding of the FPC before, the candidates meeting. So just when did you become aware that this was potentially violating the FPC?
The Seong's comment was
Yes.
potentially last night. I'd forgotten Seong's comment existed until last night. That's the first it came up to me.
Can I ask a follow-up?
Yeah.
And then when did you, just clarify the timeline again, did you want to comment after that?
Yeah, just for good measure, I guess.
Ryan?
So my question is for Matt. One of your main arguments in your prosecution was essentially the idea that there were 201 likes on the picture posted for 8% of eligible voters. I'm just kind of confused why you kind of mentioned that. Are you equating a like to a vote, or?
I'm not equating a like to a vote, but I think that there's a strong correlation between name recognition and votes garnered, and so I was just trying to show that a significant portion of voters had seen, acknowledged the post, and so probably had a familiarity with Jack because of that.
This is a question for Matt. I know you just emphasized that you wanted a level playing field for all the candidates.
Yes.
But is it bringing the charges against Connor and Jack kind of improving the chances, because if they're not candidates any more, then your chances would be higher of winning the president as well?
Can you clarify that? That feels like a little bit of a loaded question. I mean, obviously, a violation is a violation. I think that it kind of, that's the price that's paid. I don't think of it as trying to eliminate anybody from the field. I think that these are questions that just need to be asked.
I have a follow-up to Matthew's question for Jack. You asked Jack if when he saw the post from Bradley Smith of him and Jordan, if he assumed anything, any tie to the campaign, and why he sent that groupie message. And Jack, you responded saying that you did not see that as a tie to the campaign, you just thought it was a nice post. But you sent me a Facebook message saying that, with a screenshot of the picture saying, is this a rule violation? Not trying to be that guy, but multiple people who know I'm running have messaged me like, yo, he's already asking for votes, is that allowed or no?
Yeah, sure.
I just wanted to know if you still stood by the fact that when you saw that picture, you did not tie that in your mind at all to the campaign of Bradley Smith and Jordan Mitchell.
I didn't tie into the campaign. I mentioned that people were messaging me about it. I was like, I don't think this is a rule violation, so I'm asking another person who seemed aware, since you had an incident yourself where they took something down, where you were asked to take something down. So yeah, I asked, is this a rule violation? He's saying, and we both say no. That's what the conversation quickly went to. We both agreed that it wasn't. He's not referencing his campaign. It's just a picture with his close friend Jordan, who the two of them were playing with the idea of running and in front of the love statue.
Can I ask a follow-up?
Yeah.
Okay, so I don't think you quite understood my question. I understood that you came to the conclusion, whether it was with my help or not, that this was not a rule violation. But the rule violation would obviously directly correlate to a campaign, because it's the FPC. So to say that you didn't think that this picture called to mind any sort of campaign with Bradley Smith and Jordan Mitchell at all would be the complete opposite of sending a picture asking if this was a rule violation in terms of candidacy for the presidency.
Oh, that's just me questioning whether, I said after being contacted by multiple people, does me questioning if it's a rule violation, does does that mean I'm saying,
That's not my question. So
hey, it's,
I'm
it
gonna
is,
end
it
this
is your
line of
question?
questioning because there was actually no question asked. Please make sure that you're actually asking the question. Right, next will be David.
Sure, just to clarify, Jack, did you pay Sam for his photography?
No, absolutely not.
Maggie?
This question is for Jack. You mentioned a few times that you knew some of the rules for campaigning, i.e. post in the Facebook group prior to becoming an official candidate or supposedly like revealing your intention to become an official
Yeah.
candidate. So my question is, how did you know about these like rules for campaigning when you supposedly did not have the intention to become a candidate yet?
Hearsay. Well, I didn't
Hearsay.
say I had no intention. I did attend the, I never said I had no intention to, but I did attend the student government info session. I believe it was mentioned in passing there that you can't post on the Facebook page about your campaign, or I had heard from a friend who's a sophomore who had a close friend that ran for something. I heard it along the way that that's something you're not allowed to do.
Eden?
So, Connor, can you read that Facebook message and then I have a question for you?
Yes,
No,
Is that not?
no, that's not, no, we can't do that.
okay.
Alright, well,
Sorry.
in the Facebook message, you mentioned that people know, said quote, people who know I'm running. Was this before September 14th?
Sure, so I guess that was an inaccurate statement, saying like I'm running, people who know I'm thinking of running. I don't think that, again, that's something of my personal knowledge. I'm thinking of running, yeah, but that doesn't mean Seong or anyone like Sam knew about it, because I was actually very deliberate about not posting on like Snapchat or Instagram or anything about the campaign, because I thought that would be a violation, but I never knew that wasn't. So yeah, I had intent to run.
There's a question here, I promise. So according to the prohibition of ex post facto laws established in the core of the this is for Matt, by the way, the U.S. government, which is the Constitution, one cannot be charged for an act that was legal at the time it was committed. As this was before his signature of candidacy, the law didn't hold effect and hold power over him, and he shouldn't have been expected to remove any content of thus, like, relation. So how do you respond to your legitimacy of accusation against another candidate for something that's prohibited by the core of the destination of the world?
Well, first of all, I'd say we're not in a U.S. court of law, so that doesn't really hold true. And then secondly, I'd say that the FPC stipulates, I believe, that laws are enacted retroactively for a candidate. And we know that if a write-in candidate becomes an official candidate, any FPC violations that they had committed up until that time do take effect and are eligible for violation.
This is for Jack. So, to be honest, like Penn's a big school, so it's hard to get to know like all 2,500 freshmen. I personally, with your post, which I know you weren't running at the time, like that helps you recognize your name and recognize who you were. Guess my question is like, did you not? I know you weren't a candidate at the time, but in the anticipating that you might be running, did you not? So it help you get name recognition with fellow freshmen.
Look, I did not have my potential candidacy in mind when making this post. But that's not going. I'm not going to say I wasn't trying to get my name out there. I've been trying to do that since I was accepted. I love everyone I've met here. I love this school, and as such, I wanted to get my name out there to know as many people as possible. Ask anyone that met me during NSO, and they'll attest to that. I wanted to, publicity is not a bad thing. It's good to know as many people in your class as you can. It doesn't have to be tied to a candidacy. I just want to meet as many people as possible here because I know this is an amazing school with amazing people.
Shanzeh?
This is for Jack. Just to clarify, what was the purpose of your version that day, like in the suit going around Penn's campus?
Well, it was kind of two parts. I don't know if Sam's still around, but I know the one part of it is I had been seeing people posting very nice photos on the Facebook page, like Bradley, dressed nicely. I'd also heard of Sam taking LinkedIn shots for people. I'd also even said like, hey, I haven't posted an Instagram since I've been at Penn. Maybe I could get a good one today. And then, it was obviously in the back of my mind, like, if I'm ever going to be a candidate, being a candidate sometimes entails using nice photos. So it was a mix of it. One of the biggest things for me actually was I had a sense at that point that I was reasonably well known in the class, and I also knew that I think Sam, along with being pretty well known, had aspirations to do a lot of photography here. He'd been doing it for, I said, Black Wharton and Wharton Latino Society, and I figured, hey, he takes some photos for me, like I need some good shots. And we went out and we did it, and as he said, we got a couple serious ones, but it pretty quickly devolved into screwing around, like laying under the button and like sticking my tongue out in between the love statue, like fun stuff like that. Or bringing friends that were walking by him. So that's how the photo shoot went.
Sure, so following up on that, the photo on your campaign flyer, was that also, so this is a two-part question, was the photo on your campaign flyer, with the red lettering that you presented, also taken by Sam?
That was taken by Sam, yes.
Okay, and was that photo and the photos presented in the activations, were they taken on the same day?
They were taken on the same day, yeah. But none of the photos used in the Facebook post, which I thought were the comedic ones from that photo shoot, ever appeared in any of my campaign materials. Along with the other ones I showed where I was screwing around laying under the button and in the love statue. None of those ever came up.
So the time on the queue has expired. Can entertain a motion.
Motion to extend time by 15 minutes.
Is there a second? All in favor of extending time by 15 minutes? Opposed? Alright, we'll now extend time by 15 minutes.
Steven?
Yes.
Okay. So you keep using the terminology like you didn't have the intent to run and you were just flirting with the idea. At the time that the Facebook post and the comment were posted, were you gaining signatures yet for your candidacy?
The 10th. I had gained some signatures. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
And look, I have multiple friends who gained signatures and then proceeded to not run. I was not planning on doing that. I knew I liked the idea of class board, and getting signatures was an important part of that. But neither, I don't think Sam either. I know Sayong didn't even sign my signature, my sheet. I didn't really get on that grind very hard until the days leading up to the candidates meeting, where I was like, all right, let me get about like 50 or 60 a day. So yeah, I downloaded the packets and started getting a few signatures. I think when you download the packets, the first thing to do is get like a couple of your roommates. Like, hey, if I run, like, do you want to support it? And so yeah, I had a few, but was not doing any active campaign shouldn't have been done till the 14th anyway. That's something I understood. But I was not doing any active campaigning at the time of that post.
David?
Pass.
My question's from Matt. With reference to the statement by Jack that he unliked the post last night,
Yeah.
can you just to clarify, at what point did you complete that presentation and at what point did you take the screenshot of him unliking the post?
The final version of the presentation was completed last night around 9, but I took the screenshot showing that he unliked the post earlier in the afternoon, around 3 p.m. I think.
Ryan?
So my question's for Jack. Just want to be part of the FPC before I ask a question. So FPC finds campaigning as any act, process, or publication which may solicit votes. Under the comments section of one of the pictures of Mr. Chung's comment, Jack Alec was president, do you think that that may have solicited votes?
I know the intent wasn't. I don't think it did because none of us were official candidates until 4 days after that, so I don't think anyone was thinking about the election. Like I said, there have been people maybe that saw the bio I posted in July saying like, hey, yeah, I might run for class board when I get to Penn. Like, it's where do you draw the line? Did my post in July where I put a bio about myself and I said, hey, yeah, I'd consider running, does that solicit votes? Does, whenever it might have, I know there was a time in one of the group meetings where people were like, tally for president in 2016, tally for class president. I'm like, do I have to consider them surrogates? I mean, it's kind of like retroactively defining it. It's a matter of where you draw the line. So no, I don't think it solicited votes at all.
Can I ask a follow-up?
Sure.
Now, even though it was posted retroactively before the campaign season began, do you think that just by nature of a Facebook post that's there for a long time, do you think that during the campaign season that it could have been used to solicit votes?
Okay, you mean, do I think people were seeing it during the?
And
I think there's honestly not a chance at all that anyone saw that post or that comment during the, after the 14th, because, like I said, there's whether it be lost IDs, keys, who wants a concert ticket, we all know that there are like 5 to 10 posts a day on that thing, and most posts become fully and totally irrelevant within a day, and so I don't think anyone saw it, no.
Victoria?
Yes, I'm a little bit confused about the timeline still. It's clear that you thought that whatever photo you put in a group meet called to mind, like an FPC violation, or called to mind a candidacy because you asked them. So my question is, when you sent that group meet, or when you sent that picture and asked them whether or not you thought it was an FPC?
I can look. Here we go. Oh, this is not still on. September 5th.
So you asked.
No, I didn't send,
To clarify my question, so what you admitted to earlier was that you sent a picture in a group meet and
Yeah,
asked them
exactly.
whether that could be a possible FPC violation?
No, I never asked, I never asked someone in a group me if it was an FPC violation. The group me was totally not connected to my messages with Con.
Olivia?
Okay, my question is to Matt Schnitzer.
Mm-hmm.
Do you believe that Bradley Smith and Jordan Meacham's picture in the Facebook page was an act of campaigning?
Yes, I just was unaware of that picture.
Lucas?
So this question is for Jack. You've specified a lot that basically leading up to September 14th, while you've had knowledge of the FPC and kind of how to act, and were thinking about running, nothing was official, and therefore kind of actions taken beforehand shouldn't really be considered in the same light. Can you describe for us ways in which your campaign changed after September 14th?
Of course.
And if there were any things that you did, like, that you had done before that you had taken down or something like that? Just
If there were any things I don't think I took anything down that was posted prior to the 14th, because I either through the irrelevance at that point of the Facebook post, Seong's comment was no longer in my mind, that it had never been brought to my attention by anyone, no one commented in passing about it, so nothing like that was taken down. My campaign changed and started paying for stuff. Started doing active stuff, like, might have done like the day of the candidates meeting, I think I might have created my Facebook page. My campaign changed and I asked a friend of mine who's doing comp sci here to make some graphics for my campaign. That was also free. I also asked, what else did, I used a little bit of chalk, which is, this is the monetary campaign. I used chalk, I used a few flyers with the graphics on it, and I also I began posting and inviting people to like my Facebook page. And probably the biggest other thing that changed in regards to the monetary campaign was I ordered a Snapchat geo filter that was about $30 for a day. So yeah, those are some of the things I started doing after the 14th. And it's very clear that I did not violate the FPC after the 14th or at any time, technically.
Matthew Schnitzer?
The campaign poster that I put up next to your post that had a similar picture, when was that created?
That was created,
or rather, when did you ask for it to be created?
I have no idea when I asked for it to be created, but I know that thing was completed at, it was on the 14th at some point, because it's what I used as my DP thing. Yeah.
So earlier you were asked why you did the photo shoot and if it was in order to campaign. And your response was no. Look, I had an Instagram since I got here. I thought maybe I can get a good Instagram from this photo shoot.
I never posted anything
In
on Instagram.
actuality, you actually got 2 good Instagrams from this photo
Oh, yeah.
shoot with the captions. When people ask me why, what did I come out for president?
Connor.
Yes?
And this goes for everyone, but these have to be questions, you can't be introducing
Yeah.
documents, you can't be, like, they have to be questions for the candidate or for the concern.
So, in saying that you took these pictures in order to eventually Instagram, seeing as the 2 Instagrams pertain to class board, would you consider that therefore you were doing the photo shoot in order to eventually campaign, saying that you did the photo shoot so you can Instagram, and the only things you Instagram from that photo shoot were class board campaigning?
Well, okay. That is I did end up using my Instagram to publicize my campaign. Probably because I didn't understand before the campaign started the gravity of how, like, for lack of a better phrase, how hard people go on this. So yeah, I ended up posting a few. I didn't have many nice photos of me at Penn. This was literally the only set of nice photos I had. So when I posted on my Instagram, when I was going out to say, like, here, I'm gonna post on my Instagram about campaign, what selection of photos did I have other than the good shots that Sam took for me? So I posted, I think, the one where I was like coming out of the button or something, going like this, and shoot, I don't even remember the other one.
The squirrel.
Oh yeah, I was chasing a squirrel.
So I would also like to clarify, just for everyone in the room, that all evidence that was not presented in either of these 2 presentations will not even be considered by the NEC, right? So if you present something new here, literally that is, as far as the NEC is concerned, is simply considered part of you asking a question. The NEC will be considering the content of the answers of the questions, just so everybody's aware. Next on the queue is Kunal. You're next.
Okay, this is a question for Matt. So you mentioned that one of the reasons why you felt that this would be unfair was because if Jack posted on the Facebook group, then his name might get out there, people would vote for him based on name recognition. Prior to Jack posting this picture, and like prior to anything related with like candidacy, anything, had you heard of Jack Talley's name before?
No, I had not.
So this was the first time you'd ever.
Cross on, so you can ask to follow up. If you want to follow.
So this was the first time you personally ever heard of Jack Talley?
Actually, the post was the first time I'd ever heard of Jack Howard,
Yeah.
correct? Yes.
Right, Jackson?
This is for Matt. When did you first see Jack's Facebook post, and when did you, like, the idea come into your mind that this could be an FPC violation?
I think I've answered this question already, but I saw the post, I think, a couple days after it was posted. It occurred to me that it was in a gray area. I wasn't 100% that it was a violation until shortly before I filed my
Can I
post.
ask a follow-up? Of course. Were they, the, like, first time you saw it, was that, do you know, within the 14th, like, before the 14th or after?
Honestly, I can't remember.
You can't,
Maggie?
Okay, I am like Victoria, I think I'm confused about the timeline of events. So I'm gonna list 4 events, could you tell me the order that they occurred in?
Yeah, sure.
First, the photo shoot with Sam. Second, when you started getting signatures, then the candidates meeting, and then when you sent a picture of Jordan and Bradley in the group me about their candidacy.
Okay, Jordan and Bradley first. That came in like September 5th. Can you list the other 3?
Sorry, yeah, the photo shoot with Sam, when you started getting signatures, and then the candidates.
Signature second, photo shoot with Sam. Candidacy 4th.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, next. Yeah, you're up.
Yeah, so this is sort of a clarifying point. You said earlier in your argument that you intentionally avoided Instagram and Snapchat for the point of not violating the rules, but then it was just brought to light that you did use Instagram. So I'm curious how you justify sort of that.
Yeah, sure.
Could you clarify?
I didn't know the rules entirely leading up to the 14th. And something to understand is that talking about your campaign on your personal Snapchat or your Instagram is totally legal at any time, even early on. For some reason, I thought before the 14th you weren't even allowed to talk about your campaign on social media. Yeah, that's, so if you're wondering why that change happened, it's just a better understanding of the FPC.
Alright, this is for Matt. Like, I understand that it's like an ambiguous situation and everything, like, it's in the gray area. I'm just curious of like, why you didn't like bring up anything about this beforehand until you filed the charge. Like, did you ever approach Jack or NEC?
I wasn't 100% sure that it was a violation. I didn't, it hadn't occurred to me, and it didn't until I read closely through the FPC, very closely.
Okay. Follow-up?
But as we went through, Jack saying, or weren't you supposed to have read and understood the full NEC by the 14th when you had the candidate meeting?
I'm required to comply with it as it applies to me. I have no burden to relate it to the campaigns of other candidates in a certain timeline.
So my question's for Matt. It sounds like you're claiming that by Jack posting the photo in the group that he was getting name recognition. In your mind, what types of posts in the last 2020 page would have been appropriate as like that person would have had their name out there, gotten name recognition, even if they said, for instance, like, who wants to buy concert tickets?
Again, I think it's all about intent. It's ambiguous what the intent behind these pictures was. It's incredibly unambiguous what the intent is behind asking people if they have an extra concert ticket or if they can help you with Math 114. What rule did you think Jordan and Bradley violated when you asked Connor if they had potentially violated the rules?
None. I only brought that up to Connor because I know Connor had the experience with an issue himself, and people were asking me if it was a rule violation. I didn't follow up with those people and like, what rule? It's like, is this one at all? Because I don't think it is. I don't think these are campaign, but people are bringing it up to me. So I guess the question needs to be asked. Did I think there was a rule they were violating? Did I ever say there was a rule they were violating? No.
Can I ask a follow-up?
So, time has just expired. We have one more person on the queue and possible follow-up. Is there a motion on the floor?
Motion to extend by 5 minutes.
All in favor? All opposed? We'll now extend by 5 minutes. Yes, you can ask a follow-up.
So you didn't have a specific violation in mind, but it had occurred to you that they had in some way violated the FPC.
No, I never said that. You're not listening to what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that people were bringing up to me, hey, are Bradley and Jordan, these two kids who we've heard are like thinking about running, are they allowed to post like of the two of them together saying love you, Pen? So I didn't think that there was anything wrong with that. I thought sure they're allowed to, but it was, think of it as almost me relaying their question to someone who had experience with that issue himself. So no, I had no rule in mind that I thought Bradley broke.
So Matt, you said that like you had to comply and like you were aware of the rules, but you didn't know specifically whether it violated or not. So did you specifically go looking in the rules for about Jack's post to see something like if it violated something?
Yes.
Lucas?
Yeah, so this is kind of similar. Can you just describe for us how you went about like filing the charge, and then, so I guess kind of like what happened, like what made you decide to do it, and then how you like brought it to the NEC?
I decided to do it when I thought that beyond a reasonable doubt that it was an FPC violation, which was a question I had at the very end of campaigning. I brought it to the NEC's attention with a violation form, along with my spending form.
So I understand what you were saying in regard to you were just relaying the question because I had experience. The only information I had though at the time was the FPC, which I sent to you.
Yeah.
And after sending them to you, you said I'll take a look at those.
Right, again, please.
Understood. Yeah.
No
understood.
introducing new information. Actually, candidates do not have to respond if you introduce new information.
Okay.
Please limit it to a question about what's been said.
Okay, so when you messaged me saying that you would take a look at the FPC.
Again, you ignored exactly what I said. Please ask them a question about what has been said already or something related to it without introducing new information.
Did you find for yourself anything that would show that Bradley and Jordan were campaigning when you looked yourself?
Of course, I'm actually happy to like No, I didn't. Yeah, no, not at all. Because there was no violation.
Any other questions? Alright, seeing that, the remainder of the queue will expire, that's the end of questions. Oh, never mind.
Sorry.
Ryan.
My question's for Matt. At what point did, like, I understand that you did realize at the end, like near the end of the election, that's when you realized it would be a possible FPC violation. But upon seeing the post, what exactly about the post made you think that this could be possible campaigning or?
It seemed to me that otherwise it would be a frivolous post, which didn't entirely make sense to me. I don't know why somebody would do that with literally no reason. I also thought that the way that the pictures were presented, the way he was dressed, and the way that they were constructed construed idea of candidacy. And I thought overall it just seemed like very campaign-related material.
Any other questions? Alright, seeing none, that will end the procedure for this charge. Thank you very much. Now, switch seats.
Yeah. Okay, so now we're gonna be moving to the next set of charges, which were filed by the NEC, filed by Jake Cohen, the grievance officer on behalf of the NEC. So that's why Jake and I are switching roles. So as chair, I need to moderate the discussion. The general will get to ask questions. We can take a 3-minute bathroom discussion right break. But it's still gonna be 3 minutes.
When are they gonna announce the results for the charges?
I believe either tomorrow or tonight. Like the deliberations will be terminated this evening, but I don't know if they're announced until tomorrow. And then I think the elections result
Will be tomorrow, right?
or tomorrow. Yeah.
I know that. I just didn't know if like I want to know what's gonna happen.
Yeah. Well, deliberations take a long time, so I think the results might not be until tomorrow either. Actually, the results of the case.
How are they gonna make us all like go into the room and do the same type of thing, or do you think it's just gonna be all email?
I'm not sure whether they decided to have another meeting or not. I think it might just be online. I don't think they rescheduled that meeting. So. But again, I'm not sure. There might still be a meeting tomorrow. But yeah, I know. You have to wait longer.
There better be good news at the end of this.
No, I know how it feels. Are you feeling better, by the way?
Like, in terms of how nervous?
Of your health. Yeah.
Do you guys already know the results? Or just like
Of the election?
Yeah.
No, only the vice chair of elections know the results.
Are you guys just gonna find out at the same time as us?
Right, yeah. Actually, I'm not even sure if she looks at the results, like, before the end of the charges, like, even the vice chair of elections. Like, she knows what the turnout is, but, like, I think the results are, like, hidden by the system, so, again, like, it can't be in our minds at all, yeah.
That's fair, like, so especially going into this.
Exactly, yeah, it should not be a confounding factor at all. Well, great of you to come.
I do have a meeting to go to. It's very intense.
Yeah.
They grilled them. I don't know if I could have done that.
You really have to come prepared, yeah.
Really? Are they?
Oh, yeah.
clock's still going. Hi, Haley.
So now, a couple of reminders before we continue. For the question and answer period, please remember that the NEC, as written in the FPC, will only be considering materials and evidence that are presented in the presentations. So I would advise, again, don't bring new evidence into this discussion that is not in the presentations. Questions are meant to be questions about what is presented, and the surrounding information. So the NEC won't be considering any evidence that's just brought up in discussions. That's not the way that this process works. Additional points. Jake, do you have anything else?
I could just start at the beginning.
So now we're going to move into our second set of charges, which are being filed by Jake Cohen, the NEC grievance officer, on behalf of the NEC against Connor Wright. So same format, we're going to do presentation of accusations, and then defense, and then 25 minutes of question and answer with the ability to extend by majority vote of the NEC.
Alright, so first I want to introduce myself and why I am now standing here when just a couple of minutes ago I was sitting there. I am the grievance officer for the NEC, so what that means is if there is a charge not filed by the NEC, I will moderate the FPC hearing, as you just saw. It also means that I am selected to file charges on behalf of the NEC. So just to clarify what that means in detail, that means I, and basically I alone, have determined that the NEC should, or determined to file charges on the NEC's behalf. I will not be in deliberations and will not have a vote as to whether or not these charges are true, whether or not the FPC was violated. So my role ends as soon as this hearing is over. Then I leave and am no longer involved in the process. So it is not the NEC as a body determining that charges should be filed and then determining whether or not the NEC is correct. It is the grievance officer as chosen by the NEC choosing to file charges on behalf of the NEC. So if I make a statement that says either I believe or the grievance officer believes or anything to that effect, I am not representing the NEC's belief. The NEC will make that decision during deliberations. I am simply saying what essentially I, as the grievance officer, have found to or believe to be true. So that being said, just a quick overview of what I'll go through. I'm going to start with relevant sections of the FPC that I believe are important to this case, then outline the sequence of events as we understand, or as I understand them, and then finally go through the summary of charges, essentially just combine the FPC pieces with the actual events. So to start with the Fair Practices Code, we'll start with the definition of campaigning. One thing that will obviously become important is the question of whether or not the candidate was campaigning at the time of a Facebook post. So I will first note that the literal definition of campaigning first mentions explicitly electronic social networks, any act, process, or publication which may solicit votes. Just want everybody to keep that in mind. I also want to clarify that the monetary campaigning period, which begins after the candidates meeting, further clarifies that monetary campaigning, as opposed to regular campaigning, specifically has to do with purchasing advertisements on social media. Basically as to say that monetary campaigning in that period only has to do with purchasing of advertisements, and all other campaigning can simply be anything, any act, process, or publication which may solicit votes on a social network. Now the definition of surrogacy, very simple. I think the more important part of the definition of surrogacy is that within the scope of the NEC, all candidates and their surrogates must always be in full compliance with the FPC and any other rules outlined by the NEC. Again, I'll go into this in further detail, but this is just important background information. But then when we go into the actual procedures regarding surrogates, all candidates are responsible for their actions and the actions of their surrogates. Surrogates must fully comply with the FPC. Furthermore, if a candidate finds out that someone has campaigned on his or her behalf, once that candidate finds out, that person becomes a surrogate, whether or not they were initially solicited. That candidate should immediately do that which is in his or her power to end the actions potentially in violation of the FPC and document his or her effort if possible and alert the Vice Chair of Elections immediately. All of these will come back later, I assure you, just want to give the background. Finally, we go into campaign procedures regarding social networks. First part, surrogacy does apply to social networks. Second part, which I think is the most important in this case, candidates may not contact students through any university-sponsored, created, or managed social networking group designated as class-wide, e.g. official 2009 Facebook group, in this case, class of 2020. Now we'll go into the sequence of events as I understand them. On August 30th, Connor Wright posted about his campaign in the University of Pennsylvania class of 2020 Facebook group. Very clearly, he posted his intention to run for class board president with his campaign slogan. Connor Wright was notified that this was an FPC violation by the Vice Chair of Elections in an email on September 1st. Specifically, the Vice Chair for Elections quoted the relevant text of the FPC that specifically mentioned, as I mentioned before, the candidates may not contact students through any class-wide group. Within this email, attachments included this picture and a copy of the full FPC. On September 2nd, Connor Wright acknowledged that he had just learned of this rule, that he acknowledged his post was in violation of the FPC, and acknowledged that he will now read the FPC to make sure he is in line with the FPC in the future. At this point, Connor Wright had immediately and appropriately remedied the situation. He had deleted the Facebook post as soon as he had found it was in violation of the FPC, and at this point, this post is not considered part of this charge. He was not considered in violation of the FPC because he had taken the appropriate steps to remedy his action. Now on September 10th, Connor Wright posted in the University of Pennsylvania class 2020 Facebook group again. It does not explicitly reference his campaign. However, he clearly makes a post. I will not go into any other FPC, I will only go into, or any other hearings, I will only go into the evidence produced here. But more specifically, he makes this post in the Facebook group. He likes a comment that directly references voting on September 10th. On September 13th, he acknowledges a reference to a campaign, to the presidential campaign, in a comment reply. And on September 14th, a surrogate directly links to and references Connor Wright's campaign slogan on his own post. So just to summarize again, just so we all have the timeline very clear. He posts an initial post literally announcing his candidacy for class board president. He is informed that this is in violation of the FPC and acknowledges this, takes it down and acknowledges his violation and says he will go read the FPC. Then again, he posts in the class of 2020 Facebook group, acknowledges comments about his campaign, replies to comments about the election, a surrogate comments directly linking to his Facebook page, and directly mentioning his campaign slogan. Alright, so finally, how do these two link? So first, what clauses in the FPC were directly violated? That would be 7E4, contacting students through a university-sponsored social networking group designated as class-wide. Again, this was the clause specifically quoted in the email from the Vice Chair of Elections to Connor on September 1st. It was a clause he acknowledged as being in violation to begin with, and I would like to specify that this does not say campaigning to students in a university sponsored, created, or managed social networking group designated as class-wide. It says contacting students. I think this clarification will be important as the NEC looks at these charges. The other section that I believe is directly violated is 7E2. Actions of surrogates also apply to social networks. Therefore, surrogates are also allowed to campaign in a class-wide university-sponsored social networking group. The surrogates who directly referenced voting and/or specifically I would say the most blatant would be the one that directly referenced his campaign slogan, would be the wanted violation of this rule. Did the violation occur during campaigning? This is probably one of the most important parts of this case. Campaigning, as clearly defined in 2H, includes social network campaigning. Furthermore, the candidate had announced his intention to campaign and his candidacy on the same forum. Now, while that is not evidence of, while we're not considering that a direct violation of the FPC, I do believe that it not only shows intent to campaign, but shows that anything made after this point would certainly be within the realm of campaigning once you've already announced your campaign. So it's different than officially becoming a candidate, but it's still the process of campaigning. The FPC makes it clear that a candidate is bound to follow the FPC, and their surrogates are bound to follow the FPC at all times, not just during their official candidacy. Finally, was the candidate aware of this rule? The emails clearly show Connor acknowledging, quote, I learned of this rule last night, deleted the post, will now read the FPC, but there is a clear email chain where the rule was very clearly and directly quoted to him, and the FPC was linked to him. Was the candidate aware of surrogate actions on his behalf in the Facebook group? This would specifically pertain to the surrogate charge. Did the candidate take action to prevent the surrogate from campaigning? The candidate acknowledged multiple references to voting and the class board president election. Candidate commented on the candidate, or surrogate commented on the candidate's post with a direct reference to the campaign. And the candidate's failure to, quote, do that which is in his or her power and the actions of surrogates in the class of 2020 Facebook group violated 7A2, which says that if a candidate finds out that a surrogate has campaigned on their behalf, they must do essentially whatever is within their power to eliminate that campaigning action from wherever it may be. And that's all I have.
Okay, now we will hear the defense by Connor Wright.
May it please the court. Ladies and gentlemen of the NEC, and viewers who have come, whether support or for the opposite, stand with Bradley Smith. Vote Natasha Menon, Undergraduate Assembly. Rahul Chopra for Class President. Hoffman for Penn, Elena Hoffman for Undergraduate Assembly. Kathy Ding for Wharton Chair 2020. Vote Jordan Andrews for Undergraduate Assembly. Lucy Ma for VP of External Affairs. We've been long time more than friends. Now I know I'm not the only person in this room who thinks that one of those posts definitely stood out. And the reason that is because one of those was my Facebook post, and the rest were campaign materials for the Undergraduate Assembly and for the class board. This is because 7 of those images were all used directly for a campaign, while mine was simply a post in the official Facebook group. Now this photo was in no way campaign material. At the point of posting this picture, it was Saturday evening. I had collected a whopping 40 signatures at that point when the packets were released on Tuesday or Wednesday. And I was starting to second guess my own ability to not only accomplish the signature quota, but also to run in general. And I had yet to completely decide whether I'd actually be running for class board president.
Obviously, in the Facebook post mentioned earlier that was deleted after Ali emailed me, I decided that I was running for president. I thought that's all that was required. I would say I'm running for class board president, and I'd be put on the ballot, and I would hope that I would win. Later finding out that I required 258 signatures, this is a huge task. And the only thing that I love more than politics is singing. Now, I don't know if all of you are familiar with it, but that was actually the week of a cappella tryouts. It was almost every single night for sometimes up to 3 hours. And time kind of got away from me, and I was unable to collect signatures during this time. We would be assigned songs to learn, and I'd be all day practicing or fretting about the a cappella tryouts.
Just please make sure you stay back here so the live stream can see you. It's on that.
Got it. Oh, sorry. Start to move around a little bit. And so this sort of took over my week. And I actually made it all the way to the 4th round of callbacks, which I was really excited about, but sadly was not kidnapped on Friday evening. So this left me not in an a cappella group, and also realizing that I only had 40 out of 258 signatures to run for class board president. And with the signatures due on Tuesday or Wednesday, I started to doubt my ability to do this on Monday and Tuesday, and on Sunday. But what I did do is, I did take this picture. And earlier today, somebody stumbled in on crutches. His name's Cameron Cabo. He's my best friend here at Penn. I met him at the toga party. And he actually took the picture. We were walking by the statue, and we were laughing about how we thought it was hilarious that there were families and grandparents and little children every single day taking pictures of the statue that's known to be covered in urine almost every single night. Now, this was seen as pretty ironic and led us to talking about doing something funny to it ourselves. I asked him to take a picture of me simulating a blowjob on the statue of Ben Franklin. Now, he did so, and I had the intention of posting it on my Snapchat story, saying another reason that families should not be taking pictures with this statue. Now, I then realized that with 400 friends on Snapchat and about 9 of those coming from Penn, I think my friends from St. Louis would be more than confused and probably think that I've done some exploring while in college pretty early into my freshman year. So I decided against this, and I left the post in my camera roll, and we headed to Starbucks. We actually went to dinner there. I don't know why he wanted to eat dinner at Starbucks. I did not like it one bit, but we ate dinner there, and we ended up hanging out there for a few hours. And it was actually later that night that we see Jack Talley posted this post. He said, "We've been longtime friends, me and Ben Frank." And I'm sitting there with Cameron, having taken this picture 2 hours earlier, at 7:19 p.m. on September 10th. I know that it makes me look worse, showing that I actually didn't take that picture in response, but actually took that picture on my own accord. But that's what happened. And after seeing his post, again, I was not for sure running for class board president. In my mind, I thought that was going to be a lot of signatures to be getting. I mean, 218 signatures in 2 or 3 days was going to be a tough thing to accomplish. So that's not what was crossing my mind. What was crossing my mind was what Jack references as his hilarious memes that people have known and loved since he was accepted early decision actually started to really annoy some people. I thought that it was kind of, he's an acquaintance of mine. We've talked, obviously we've messaged on Facebook a few times. But what I saw was a fake-natured post that somehow had some other agenda. I wasn't sure if it had to do with a campaign for presidency, but I knew that it wasn't genuine, and I knew that it wasn't just him trying to be funny, and it started to come across as a little fake. So I ended up posting this picture in order to mock Jack. I know that's not exactly the nicest thing to do, but it's also noticed that I didn't take the picture to mock Jack, but it actually was shockingly fitting, seeing as we were both taking pictures of Ben Franklin's statue, one going to first base and one going to third. So later in what happened comes when, so basically one of the main reasons I posted this is probably similar to why Jack posts memes on the page, which is every person my age, and I'm sure you guys can attest to this, loves likes. And loves constant affirmation. I think that's what this generation is defined by. I think we all know that feeling when your Instagram gets 2 comments and you're really expecting 12. It's not a good one, but it is a generation where we do feed off of constant affirmation from our friends, from our peers, from our fellow UPenn freshmen. So after seeing this post that was doing actually pretty well, I thought that, well, I have this very coincidentally perfect picture for this setting. I'll post this to try to kind of one-up him, to kind of do a comeback, to go against him. And although it was not nice, it was no way me campaigning for the presidency. Did it make people think I was funny? Sure. Did it make some people think I was horribly vulgar and ended up actually telling me to my face that they didn't want to be my friend? Yeah, more often than the funny response. And that I was kind of sad to find out about. But I went to an all-boys Catholic high school, and jokes were a little different there than they are here. And I've definitely found that out in these past few days. But what I found out through this post is that, what you should find out from this post is that I was not in any way campaigning for the presidency. I was merely writing a comeback to Jack Talley in what tried to be a funny manner. Now, that doesn't mean that nobody knew I was at first planning to run for class board president. Obviously, you saw the first post that was deleted that had, I think, 43 likes announcing my candidacy. But what's really important to understand is that there's a clear and crucial difference between announcing somebody's candidacy and actually being a candidate. I mean, I could say whatever I wanted, but that doesn't mean it's actually true. And it's clearly stated in the FPC that candidates shall sign a statement confirming that they have read and understood the FPC and shall abide by all rules laid out at the candidate's meeting. And thereafter, at the end of the candidate's meeting, until this document is signed and handed in, no candidacy shall be official. Therefore, it's important to look at all the rules in the FPC where the word candidate is mentioned with that in mind. As somebody who had played around with the idea with running for class board president, was very adamant about it early on in the semester, was a little more weary about it that Saturday night when I had so many more signatures to acquire. But keep in mind, no matter what, that doesn't mean I was a candidate at that time. This shows that no candidacy is official until that paper is signed. And that's important to understand because that means if you look at the scope of the FPC says that all candidates and their surrogates must always be in full compliance with the FPC. Now, this clearly states that all candidates and their surrogates must always be in full compliance with the FPC. As I just stated, until I signed that sheet of paper, I was not a candidate, and without being a candidate, I also had no surrogates. Therefore, there was no way for me to start campaigning as a candidate without having signed that sheet of paper. Now, it's also important to understand that the NEC, in the email I was sent, and that I believe most of you were sent, states that this charge also pertains to actions taken by a candidate in the Class of 2020 official Facebook page. The Nominations and Elections Committee alleges that the candidate indirectly campaigned by posting images. I've just told you that by posting this picture, I was in no way trying to campaign for the presidency, was pretty sure I wouldn't actually be able to get on the ballot, and was actually doing it just as a comeback to this person who had been very prevalent in the Facebook page since ED. It's also important to note that campaigning is defined as any act, process, or publication which may solicit votes. This includes, but is not limited to. And what was bolded by my opponent was electronic social networks, which is clearly there. However, what I would like to especially point out is the word solicit. Now, the word solicit is defined by the Merriam-Webster Dictionary as to ask for something such as money or help from people, companies, etc. In this example, it would be for help. To ask for help, to ask for a vote. Or you can ask a person or group for money, help, etc. Therefore, the definition of campaigning is soliciting votes, which in the definition of soliciting votes would be asking for them. Now, obviously, this can be done indirectly, but simply posting a funny picture in response to Jack Talley's picture is in no way asking anybody to vote for me. In addition, as I had said earlier, I was not an official candidate. And in response to the comments that were made on this page, it's also very important to understand the definitions. Now, my opponent was very clear about stating the email that I received from Ali Rubin on September 1st. Now, when I decided that I would run for class board, I was actually at a FA meeting. We were having pancakes at the top of one of the high-rises, and I told a senior I was interested in politics. And he said, "Are you considering Penn student government?" And I was like, "Well, yeah, I think that'd be really cool. I think it's obviously super hard to attain given the competitive nature of the entire class and just the all-around high level of people at Penn." But I said that actually sounded like a really cool idea. And that's when he said, "Well, if that's the case, then you need to beat the game. When you're running as a junior or a senior or as a sophomore, people have already known everybody. Everybody knows everybody, all the names are equally as familiar, but as freshmen, you have the advantage of nobody knowing anybody, and therefore your pure advantage would be name recognition. So they advised that I basically got my name out there as soon as possible. So that's when I realized that I needed to post a Facebook post saying that I was running for president. Now, a day or two later, we had the PSG info session where it was clearly said, probably 15 times, that you can, under any circumstances, post in the official Facebook group saying that you're running for president. In addition, we were not allowed to post anywhere saying we were running for president, on our wall, on our Instagram, on our Snapchat, until we were given the signature sheets. The second I was sitting in the auditorium, I deleted the post immediately. I woke up the next morning to an email from Allie Rubin stating that I needed to delete the post immediately, and I informed her that it in fact was already deleted. Obviously, she did not have access to the Penn 2020 Facebook group, and what she was referring to was merely a screenshot and had no way of knowing whether or not that was already taken care of. But in my first instance of learning about Penn student government, when I was told that there was absolutely no post whatsoever, I deleted the post. And there was also something that was mentioned in that post, and that was #MakeTheRightChoice. Now, this was a preliminary slogan for my campaign. And the reason I chose that as my campaign is my last name's Wright, W-R-I-G-H-T, and there's lots of puns that can go along with that. But basically since freshman year of high school, every night before me and my siblings go out or go to a party, my mom always tells us to make the right choice. And that kind of resonated with me, it kind of stuck with me, and it kind of made sense. It's basically assuring the person that, that I am the right choice, but basically what ended up happening, and it was very early on, is people were confused by it because they didn't know my last name. So I can't tell somebody to make the right choice, they're just like, what are you talking about? So unless you see it in writing, the pun doesn't make any sense, which is why I changed it to vote right, because you don't really see that commonly as a phrase. And I spent about 16 hours chalking that into the quad steps to really show that that is absolutely my official campaign slogan. Obviously, make the right choice was seen in the DP, which was submitted, but the comment on the Facebook page was not referring to my campaign slogan. The reason I know this is because it was posted by a woman named Elise Coachman. She's up there in the black dress, waving to you guys. And I met Elise when I was in Sam Felgoy's room. And to tell that story, I would actually like to call Elise to the stand. How are you? Good. So first of all, I'm just going to ask you questions, and I'd ask that you just respond directly to them. Just tell them what happened. I'll feed the questions. First of all, when did you meet me?
I met you in Sam's room. She was my friend. I was returning the dress. You were in the room when I walked in.
Yeah, so I was sitting with Natalie Munson and Sam Felgoys, and they said their friend was dropping off a dress. They live in Lower Quad, and their window actually opens up to the Lower Quad gate. They saw her walk through the gate, and they said, "Hey, Elise, return our dress." So she went and got the dress and returned it. And what did you say when you met me?
I go, "Oh, you're Connor, right?
And I said,
R-I-G-H-T.
And I said, "Yes, I am Connor Wright." And I think that's hilarious, but nobody else seems to find that funny. But I think probably 5 or 6 people in this very room have had that encounter with me when I meet you. Because almost every single time somebody recognizes my face and asks my name, they say, "You're Connor, right?" And I go, and they're like, "Oh my God, that was not good." But needless to say, I'm a big fan of the right puns, and I think I get that from my mom. But Elise was actually the first person to respond semi-well to this joke, which I think was promising for our friendship. And from then on, we started making more right puns. I'd say, "Are you going to the party?" She'd say, "Damn right."
Damn right.
And so it started to become this inside joke, even though it was just my last name. We tried coaching, but it's harder than you think. But it became this inside joke for puns that have to do with right. So that was the first time we met for, I would say, about 5 or 10 minutes. When is the next time that we met?
So we had talked about this shirt that you had gotten that first time we met, and you were kind enough to give it to me. And the next time we met was when you dropped it off in my room on September 11th. And you walked in, you gave me the shirt, and that was the second time we met.
Yeah, so the first time I met her, I told her that I got this vintage Quaker shirt from eBay that I was so excited about. And I got it in a size large, which is my size. I was super pumped. It's from the 1930s. I was excited, but what happens is sizes differ in 100 years. So it turned into a baby crop top on me. So I was talking about it, and she said, well, can I have it? And I said, absolutely. So it wasn't until the second time that I met her, which was September 11th, which actually happened to be the morning after I posted the Benjamin Franklin blowjob picture onto the official Facebook page. Now, when I gave you the shirt, what's the first thing you brought up?
I actually mentioned the picture that you posted. I said that's so hilarious.
Yeah.
I loved it.
Another example of why our friendship's going to flourish throughout freshman year.
And then I asked if you spit or swallowed.
Yeah, she asked me. So this was abrupt. This was bold. This was the second time I'd ever met her, and this was about minute 12 into our friendship. And she said, "Did you spit or swallow?" And I said, "Well, I made the right choice. I swallowed." And she laughed, and I laughed, and we had a great time about it. And it wasn't until a few days later where she was trying to come up with a funny comment on my picture, and she said, "Spit or swallow? Make the right choice." I told her myself the right choice, which was swallowing. It's clearly two options, and there's clearly one answer. Now, coincidentally, because there's only about 8 or 9 phrases that have the term right in it, including right on, vote right, make the right choice, this is the only one that applied to something that can happen outside of campaigning. This happened in a situation where she was choosing between spitting or swallowing, and she followed up that saying good, because spitters are quitters. And so another example of why I think we're going to be good friends. And then in addition, after this post was made, I understood why the NEC thought what they thought. If something's an inside joke, how would you guys know what we were talking about? But thankfully, the comment was made 4 days after the original post was made. She had went back to it to try to post an inside joke to make me laugh while I was in whatever class at the moment. This was not something that was seen by masses of people. This was not something that was seen by other people liking or commenting on the page, but was rather one of the last things to be posted onto the page. And in addition, again, was making a choice between spitting or swallowing. Thank you so much for this. And then the second person I'd like to call to the stand is Claire Centeno. Centeno. Claire Centeno. Sorry. You can explain. Okay, so Claire is a fellow St. Louisan, and that's how we know of each other. So I just want to have you outline to the NEC basically the history of our relationship, whether that be friendship, acquaintance, just the timeline of you and I as two people.
We're really just acquaintances. We met once at Quaker Days and learned that we're both from St. Louis. He didn't go to the St. Louis meetup, so I didn't see him then. And then we coincidentally sat next to each other in math class and just talked about math. And that's pretty much all the interaction we've had, except for these past 2 days where we've talked about this.
So we're into Turk's math class together, and I turned to my right, and there was Claire, this person I had met at Quaker Days who I knew was from St. Louis. I was out of town for the St. Louis meetup, otherwise that would have been fun. But, so that's where Claire and I met for the second time. And so Claire, just to clarify, so was there any mention of campaigning? Thank you. Was there any mention of campaigning, of elections, of my presidency, of my interest in politics even, in the history of you and I know?
No, not at all. We really only talked about how scared we were for calculus.
Yeah, and that's proving correct as our first midterm's on Tuesday, and we'll probably be studying right after this. But basically, she does mention a vote, though. How would she be talking about a vote if I hadn't told her anything? How did you possibly hear that I was planning on doing something in Penn Student Government?
I heard from one of my suite mates that he was planning on running, and I went, oh, I know him, I've met him, and so I thought the post was pretty funny.
And so, and what's going to be very important in this deliberation is what was your personal intent when commenting that picture, when commenting that comment?
My personal intent was just to tell you that it was funny, and since I had heard that you were going to be running, I thought a funny way to say it was like, oh, that got my vote, when, you know, would a picture like this really get my vote? No. I just thought it was funny, and I also put an LOL at the end because it's a not serious comment.
Yeah, and in addition, I think it's important to understand again, keeping in mind the entire time that this post was made on September 10th at 9:20 p.m. And so to claim that she was a surrogate would require a candidate, and to claim that I'm a candidate would be inaccurate until I signed the piece of paper in your guys' presence at the official candidates meeting. So what I basically am trying to show you guys is that although she was mentioning a vote, she was not a surrogate at that time, and nor was she campaigning. The definition of campaigning, as I went over earlier, is the soliciting of votes. In context, this can be taken the same way as a Facebook message, the same way as a text to me. She said, "You got my vote, LOL." Now, this was not her saying, "Guys, vote for Connor Wright." This was not her saying, "Connor Wright would make a better president than anybody else in the freshman class." This was her simply telling me something. If you were to argue that it were campaigning, this would be inaccurate also because she is not a surrogate, because I was not a candidate. And if it was past the candidate time, she also wouldn't be a surrogate because I've only talked to her twice. And I don't know anything more than her name at this point, and the fact that we seem to both be, seem to be struggling with Math 104. Thank you. So it's important to look at those two comments especially because those are what are seen as my friends or my peers that are campaigning for me, that are my surrogates trying to convince other people to vote for me for class president. But if you look at all the facts and in the timeline of the facts, at the time I posted the picture, I wasn't so sure about that class president thing. At the time of that picture, I had not signed that sheet and was not an official candidate. And at the time of the picture, I had 0 surrogates because I was not a candidate. Although Elisa's coincidental comment did make a right pun that was similar to my campaign slogan, which I obviously understand that the similarity. He pulled up the DP article, which you guys have seen. But it's important to understand that she was not campaigning for me. She was not soliciting votes. She was rather discussing the decision between spitting and swallowing and making the correct choice, which I think everybody already knows. And so, in addition, it's important to look at Claire's comment in the terms of, well, this actually references an election. It does reference an election, but what it doesn't reference is a campaign. It doesn't reference any method of soliciting votes. It doesn't reference any method to convince people that they should vote for me. It's also important to look at the third comment that was brought to the table. This was brought by somebody who I've actually never met. I'm not even his Facebook friend. I had never even seen his name, but he commented not very presidential. So, what's important, especially in these upcoming months, because for the NEC especially, is understanding that with this new wave of social media, this is probably where campaigning is going to be starting to take its trend. It's probably going to be heading towards more in that direction, and rules will probably have to be elaborated on to make sure that everything's exactly specific. So what's important to understand in this case is that when he said not very presidential, I was bummed because at first I was getting positive reactions from people in general, and when he said not very presidential, I wasn't bummed because that means he wasn't going to vote for me for class president, because at that point, I still needed 218 signatures to go. I was bummed because it looked like it was a bad representation of myself. For a split second, I regretted the post, and I thought that it was immature, and it started to make me wonder if that post was just coming from my all-guys school point of view. But instead of deleting the post, I decided to reply to the comment. And the reason I did that is because, obviously, he was not campaigning for me. This doesn't mean anything, likes don't mean votes, but Jack Talley's liked his profile picture, vice versa. It seems like they're friends on Facebook, so he wasn't campaigning for me, and it was actually quite the opposite. So, once I do receive official candidacy, if I were to just delete his point of view, if I were just to remove his opinion from this Facebook group, I don't think that would be doing the elections process justice. I think that, frankly, that's a post, that's a comment being made by somebody who's not running for a class board or undergraduate assembly office. Rather, they are not bound by the FPC. They were not campaigning, they were anti-campaigning, which can also be seen as bad if it were by a candidate, but again, it's just by a random person. So I responded with a joke. I responded to something that does not mention my campaign, that does not mention me running for class board, where to vote, when to vote. It was not a call to action. It was simply saying that, I don't have the screenshot, he has the screenshot, but it was simply saying that it got Monica Lewinsky into the Oval Office. Now, I do understand that this is another example of an inappropriate action, and I would like to apologize that that is majority of what we are discussing here today. But it's the facts. I mentioned something that was on the presidential level of the United States of America. I mentioned something that had to do with Bill Clinton and Monica Lewinsky, not, for instance, a past class board election where a blowjob was extremely relevant, because I don't think that's the case. I mentioned something that had to do with a United States election and a United States presidency, and intentionally made sure not to reference anything about my campaign, the fact that I was voting, and tried to, again, maybe think, okay, well, maybe people won't hate me for this post, and will think I'm funny if I respond to this negativity with positivity, rather than just removing this negativity. And then it's also important to know that I tried to be very diligent throughout this campaigning process. After getting the email from Allie, I had two reactions. One, I was scared shitless. I was first of all, I yet to know there was an NEC, so I was amazed to find that out. But I was also scared for myself. Obviously, she was nice about it and understood that I had no prior knowledge about this case. But what's important to note is that that was my first knowledge of the NEC. But I realized that it was a force, and you guys are a force. And obviously, that's keeping the class board and the UA in line. But what's also important to note is that throughout my campaign, I tried to keep myself in line. So 2 examples of that are, I said this to Aiden Ryder, saying just reread the FPC to make sure, and I think I'm fine, but just wanted to reach out to you to be sure. Is my comment okay? I wasn't contacting anybody using the group, but I just want to make sure it's fine. Now, before you guys start extrapolating and just think that I'm trying to twist this at all, this is not about the post in question. This is about a completely different post. This is about a completely different comment that I left on somebody else's post. I just wanted to show you guys an example of me being cautious throughout the election period, and me being understanding of the fact that there are rules in place, and that those rules need to be followed in order to do an election. Another example of this is when I was gonna chalk the stairs, I noticed that there was strictly funk written on the stairs. And I was worried that if I just went and erased them and then rewrote them, or if I erased them in the middle of the night, I didn't know if that would be okay, if that we're allowed to tamper with anything written. So I made sure to say, now that the auditions have passed, can I erase their talk on the quad? And he said not until 7 a.m. Now, that was a bummer because I wanted to start chalking at 7 a.m. and I assumed that monetary campaigning didn't have to do with washing, it just had to do with chalking. But I still listened to this. I knew that the quad was good real estate. So I went to the quad steps at 3 a.m. and sat on the stairs until 7. And then the second the clock struck 7, I Cinderella style started washing the steps one by one, and then proceeded to do my chalking. But I just wanted to show this as an example of me making sure that the FPC was being followed throughout my campaign and my election, and that I was being careful in the whole process. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Connor. So now we're gonna have 25 minutes of Q&A. Give me a second to take a queue. First question to Spencer.
This question is.
Yes.
Was Jack Talley mentioned in your post or any of the comments on your post in any way?
No, the only mention would be quoting his post with the change of a word. So with him saying we've been long time friends, me being Frank, and me saying we've been long time more than friends.
No, I was just nodding. Okay. Ryan.
Okay, before I have my question, I'm just going to read this part of the FPC. So it's section 7A1. All candidates responsible for their actions and the actions of their surrogates. The surrogates must comply fully with the FPC and any rules adopted by the NEC, including all decisions of the chair of the NEC and the vice chair for elections of the NEC.
Mm-hmm.
So, seeing as our vice chair of elections, Ali Rubin, did email you saying that you couldn't post to the Facebook page yet, thus treating you as a candidate, thus can it be also inferred that your surrogates were also surrogates and thus you were responsible for their actions even before that September 14th date, excuse me?
So what I would consider this was Ali basically warning me that my actions that I took before knowing about the FPC would disqualify me from running for class president. So this was obviously still before I was an actual candidate, but she's saying, just so you know, this post would actually disqualify you if you ever plan on running. So yes, I did understand at that point that you were not allowed to post in the Facebook page, but it wouldn't be considered her treating me like a candidate. It would be her treating me like a potential candidate, which is also defined throughout the FPC. And there's a difference between a potential candidate and a candidate who's signed the paper.
Question with a logical follow-up. Did you attend the PSG info session?
I did, yes.
So then, is it true that Ali's email, which occurred afterwards, was really your first encounter with the NEC?
So I knew that the NEC existed. I knew that the 6 branches of government existed. It was more seeing firsthand what the NEC actually did and what they were taking care of, and it happened to me.
Olivia.
I just have 2 questions about the timeline. Could you just clarify when Elise's post was made and then when the 3rd comment was made in which you replied to?
Yes. So Elise's comment was made like 12:06 on September 14th, and the post, the timeline. No, the comment that was. Oh, you have that. Okay. So September 13th would have been the comment about Monica Lewinsky.
Victoria.
My question is for Elise. He mentioned earlier that you were just trying to like make this comment to make him laugh. My question is why you felt the need to link it to his campaign Facebook page like as a joke, to like make him laugh.
So I didn't understand the link between Make the Right Choice and his campaign at that point. The post Jack showed earlier that that it was shown in the NEC part that said like Make the Right Choice, the post that was deleted. I had never seen that. I didn't know that was part of his like slogan at that point. I was literally just making an inside joke. I didn't understand there was a correlation, if there is one at all.
Sorry, just to clarify, I wasn't asking about the phraseology of the comment. I was asking why you linked it to his campaign Facebook page.
I didn't link anything.
It's just his Facebook. It's just my Facebook.
There was no link.
Yeah.
There is no Facebook page.
Maggie.
Oh, I passed.
Carly.
My question has a couple parts to it. So you made this presentation, right? Yeah, because that was yours.
Yes.
Okay, so like the screenshots taken were from your own Facebook. So like you took a screenshot of the post from your own personal Facebook.
Yes.
So like the liking on the pages were you liking the comments?
Yes. When it says unlike for the LOL, got my vote LOL, and for the spin swallow, that's me liking it. Yes, and I completely acknowledge that I saw those comments. I was just arguing that those are not considered.
And currently those posts are still liked by you.
Yes, I've not changed anything.
Lucas.
So this is also for Elise. I was just reading the timeline. You met very briefly before the post was made. The post was made on September 10th, and then you received the shirt on September 11th. And September 14th, you decided to make this comment. And if I recall correctly, that was significantly after anyone else had really interacted with the post. And that was 3 days after you had made this joke with Connor. Was there any attempt to kind of bump this post? And why did you wait 3 days to make the joke?
So the day after the post was made, September 11th, we had our little interaction with the shirt. And then I was trying to post something later after Connor left to try and be funny, and I couldn't think of anything. And it was 3 days later that I finally was like linked it to an inside joke and finally said that I wanted to comment. It had nothing to do with bumping the post or anything else. I just randomly thought of like putting it on.
Maggie.
Oh, I passed.
Maggie.
When you posted the picture in response to Jack Talley's, were you aware that he was running for president?
Yes, I was. Absolutely aware.
The post that Jack made, that was on his personal Facebook page, was that on his personal Facebook page?
No. They were both in the Penn class of 2020. Mine was posted 3 minutes after, which left some people wondering how I took that picture in 3 minutes, which I've just revealed to you guys I took it 2 hours before by myself.
Sean. I guess my question is, one person showed a screenshot, Connor, I think yours just said your name, the other one showed that it was clearly posted in the class of 2020. Is there any dispute that it was posted in the 2020 page, or why was it?
The one of me and Ben Frank are...
Yeah, yes.
No, when I screenshot it on my phone, it doesn't do the arrow thing to University of Pennsylvania, but that was in the class, for sure.
So this doesn't mean to sound like a joke, but it might. With reference to that same picture, the timestamp was 7:19 p.m. Given that sunset was at 7:17 p.m. on September 10th, how is it possibly that dark?
So the timestamp on that picture is the timestamp. So I have a Canon camera for my digital photography class. The timestamp that you're seeing is the time that that picture was downloaded. But the sunset, are you saying the sunset would have been 7:10?
7:17, so 2 minutes before that timestamp.
So what I'm saying is that the picture was taken right then, and I can bring in my camera to show that. But my camera has Wi-Fi, and I immediately download it to my phone, whether it changes in 2 minutes or not.
Spencer?
So the post is still up, it's not been deleted?
Yeah, nothing has been changed.
Casey? Ryan?
So seeing as, Pittsburgh, so seeing as Elise made this post on your Facebook photo, in the Facebook page, with your campaign slogan that was on other campaign materials, do you think that the presence of that slogan in the Facebook page could have solicited votes?
I do not believe that, especially because given the time that it was commented, and also given the fact that the only campaign materials that I personally had were chalking vote right and were my DP article. So it'd be kind of a far-fetched connection to you have to have read the DP and you'd have to also have revisited the post 4 days later.
May I ask a follow-up?
Yes.
So seeing as Make the Right Choice was in your original post on Facebook that Allie asked you to take down,
Yeah, so I thought.
would you just not consider that a slogan, or?
So I would definitely consider it as thinking of a slogan, thinking of a hashtag. I ended up going with vote right because it's shorter, and the DP gave me more space and stuff. But in terms of the connecting, it's 4 days later, and then also the fact that Make the Right Choice is just in the DP, excluding the first one, which we've forgotten about.
Thank you.
Jack Kelly?
So wait, we're not allowed to bring in, if you post something on Instagram or something with the slogan, that's not.
It won't be considered.
Okay, understood. Then I actually have a question for, Jake Cohen, is, seeing as Connor responded to Allie's email saying he would read the FPC in full, is there any literature in the FPC or any policy about, if a candidate, can be assumed to be aware of something if they are at that point held accountable?
Sure, so I would say probably the most direct precedent, so there are a few points in the FPC that basically say at all times or almost always, but I would say the most important part is that a write-in candidate is expected to have retroactively been following the FPC up until the point of the write-in candidacy and through that point. So my interpretation of the NEC, of the FPC, obviously the NEC makes its own interpretation, but my interpretation is that the rules are expected to be followed at all times, and that's not just once a candidacy is declared. I think I would personally point to the definition of campaigning, which is an act that may solicit votes. It's not will solicit or attempts to solicit or intends to solicit, it's may solicit. And I mean, again, that's my interpretation of the NEC, which may be different from the NEC, of the FPC, which may be different from the NEC's, but my interpretation is that that several clauses basically imply that it's retroactively applied to any and all information or any action.
Awesome. I have a question for, you had mentioned that you had gone after that you initially had trouble gathering signatures, we'll listen to our question. When you then went to get more signatures, did you ever make reference to this photo while trying to get the signatures?
No, but some people did. So for instance, like there'd be a time where I'd say, "Hi, my name's Connor Wright. Could you sign a petition to put me on the ballot for class president?" And they'd say, "Connor Wright, you're the one who blew Ben Frank." And sometimes that resulted in a no, I'm not going to sign your petition.
And then can I ask a follow-up to that?
Yes, sir.
That when you posted the photo, were you aware that posting this photo might gather you more name recognition with other people and stuff?
I mean, I was definitely aware of, like, I guess what I was definitely aware of was how bold the post was and how probably it would catch a lot of people off guard, especially given what was already in the Facebook group. But, I mean, I think that can also be sent, name recognition can be gathered in a lot of different ways, at Quaker Days, meeting a lot of people. So I think yes, a post to a lot of people is going to gain name recognition, and it was obviously a bold post. But was it in an attempt to gain signatures or votes or win class board president? It was simply a response to Jack that went over really well.
Thank you.
Jake.
Yes, this question's actually for Claire. So I just want you to clarify how much you made when you were up here. You basically, no pun intended. But in all seriousness, you made a comment that basically said you saw the post, you knew who Connor was, you knew he was running for class board president, or at least considering running, and you said that, I just want to make sure that I'm getting this right, you said that you were considering voting for him, or at least making the comment about voting for him because you saw the post, is that correct?
I just thought that the post was funny, and I thought that kind of making a joke about him running would be a funny way to tell him that I thought it was a funny post.
Did your post get any media attention?
The Benjamin Franklin blowjob picture?
Yeah.
Sadly, yeah, it was in Under the Button, which my mom reads. So that was an awkward phone call.
Jake again.
Right, this is for Connor now. Sorry, but I'm going to quote from the FPC. So you were basically saying that you don't believe that any of the people who commented on your post were surrogates. So how would you respond to the section 7A2, which specifically says that the candidate finds out someone has campaigned on his or her behalf without his or her knowledge, or may have violated the FPC, the candidate should do whatever is in his or her power to end the actions potentially in violation. Yeah.
Okay. So what I would say is what's very important and what he just read off is the amount of times that candidate and campaign were said. If a candidate finds out someone has campaigned on his or her behalf. So at the time that I received those comments, when I received the notification that Claire Centeno had commented on my picture, I was not a candidate. So a candidate did not find out somebody has campaigned. In addition, I proved that she was not campaigning or trying to solicit votes or doing something that may solicit votes, rather stating her opinion. So I was not a candidate finding out about somebody campaigning. And then the candidate should do whatever is in his or her power to end the actions. I wasn't a candidate, so I couldn't be a candidate that is taking the action in my power to end those.
Yep. So do you not consider your post announcing your candidacy in any way making you a candidate, or your attempt to solicit signatures for your candidacy in any way?
So it's clearly said that although I would sort of agree with you in the sense that that is kind of a logical step, it's clearly outlined in the FPC that no candidacy shall be regarded as official until that piece of paper is signed. Yes, I did post saying, "Hi, I'm running for class board president," but I think that post actually sheds light on the fact of how ignorant I was of the entire process, and would also, be in line with me not being an official candidate at the time.
Brian.
My question to answer.
Jack.
So Elise, were you, when you made the post or the comment on September 14th, were you at all aware that Connor was considering running? Had he talked to you about it at all?
Yeah, I knew he was gonna potentially be running if he got enough signatures.
Spencer.
Just for clarification, can someone read the full caption on the post that was made on your post?
My post?
Yeah.
It was, "We've been long time more than friends." Yeah. The only difference is there's no space in long time on Jack's post, and I mistakenly put a space.
Thanks.
Spencer.
So, Connor, you keep referencing the idea of you being kind of a potential candidate, in that there is the specific part of the FPC that defines a candidacy becoming official after the signing of the understanding that we give you guys at the at that meeting. But just kind of in the very beginning of the FPC, 2A defines a candidate as quote, any full-time student who is seeking election to undergraduate assembly and or the class boards.
Yes.
So as an individual who had already gotten signatures at the time, and had at least told some people that they were seeking an election, seeking to be elected, why do you believe that, regardless of whether or not it's considered official, why do you believe that you are not a candidate within the grounds of the FPC?
So I believe that I'm not a candidate in the grounds of the FPC, pointing down 3 definitions below that I believe, where it says election proceedings. So in terms of an election, there was no word of election, there was no specific dates of an election, nothing of that sort at that moment. So to be a candidate, I think it would be required for an election to be either on the books or known about, but at that time, especially at the time of the first post, that was not the case. The election proceedings start once that paper is signed.
May I ask a follow-up?
Wait, can I clarify? In the FPC, election proceedings begin when the candidate packet is released, and that's on September 6th.
Okay, September 6th.
May I also ask a follow-up? So you had been contacted earlier and asked to take something down as a candidate. If it were the case that you did not consider yourself a candidate, why did you comply with that?
So at that time, obviously when I posted the very first post, typing it up, I wanted to be class board president. Then we had the PSG info session, and immediately finding out that I was not allowed to post if I sought being class board president. And that was all within a few days, I think it was Tuesday to Thursday. So I posted it because I wanted to be president. And the second I found out that I couldn't be president with that post, I deleted it. It was deleted before, and you can even check, it was deleted before Ali emailed me, and I have screenshots of the email as well as who had liked it when I had deleted it. So I think it's important to note that I would not be considered a candidate, especially at that time, rather than just somebody who was very interested in the possibility of PSG.
Sean?
So my question's for Jake, and I'd ask if Connor would verify this. At what point was Connor made aware of the FPC violation that you are asserting here, and was he given the opportunity to take that post down?
Yeah, sure. So the NEC actually did not find out about this violation until a charge was independently submitted between 5 and 7 p.m. this Thursday. So we notified Connor at 7:30 once the NEC. Basically, we determined that we had supplemental information to just the charge that was filed, so it was essentially within the grievance officer's right to take over that charge and make it an official NEC charge. Otherwise, the NEC can't present evidence in a hearing. So we were only notified about the post on, I don't remember what the date was, but this past Thursday between 5 and 7 p.m. And then Connor was notified at 7:30 p.m.
And I'll verify that, yeah, I found out that same night that we had to turn in our spending forms, which is a little later.
And the one, I guess, note I'll make on that is usually best practice is if the NEC finds out about a violation that the candidate clearly just shouldn't have known about or couldn't have known about, such as Connor's first post, then we reach out to them. If they make actions to remedy that situation very quickly, like I mentioned before, then they're not considered in violation of the FPC. So the reason specifically that the NEC brought forward that the grievance officer determined that this charge needed to be brought was because that notification had already been made previously.
Yeah. Can you spell out more what that process is? Is it an independent claim being brought against that, another candidate claim,
So
or the second, the first charge today, allow this charge to go?
Sure. So the person who filed the first charge today actually initially filed 2 charges. The NEC had no knowledge of either charge or either accusation in any way until the charges were filed somewhere between 5 and 7. As for the first charge that was filed, we had no supplemental information whatsoever. We couldn't, the NEC didn't have a further case than the person who had brought the charge in the first place. For Connor's charge, we had supplemental information. specifically, I can note that it was our first interaction with Connor. And from there, at that point, we basically reached out and said, would you mind if the NEC took over again?
Brian.
My question for Jake. Are you in accordance with Connor's logic that he was not officially a candidate when, and therefore the surrogates were not official surrogates when those comments were made?
I'm not. I believe that once you announce your candidacy and once you start campaigning and attempting to get signatures, that you are a candidate. Further, I think the definition of campaigning was more clearly violated, and that it is any act that may solicit votes. So I actually don't think it necessarily matters if he was officially a candidate, unofficially a candidate, or didn't consider himself a candidate, because campaigning was still clearly actively going on, and there was clearly at least the likely possibility of soliciting votes. You want to respond as well or no?
No.
Okay.
Maggie.
This is for Connor. To clarify, after Allie's email to you, did you ever consider removing the photo or the comments, or did you ask Aiden or any other member of the NEC about the post at any point?
So, also just to clarify, Allie's email pertained to the first post.
Right.
Yeah. So, you're talking about the photo?
Yeah, I'm like.
So, when I posted the photo, I even already knew about Ellie's email, and the section of the FPC that she had sent me, and the email that I read. So yeah, I did know about that.
Victoria.
I just have a question about the timeline. When did you submit your candidate packet on September 14th? And I apologize.
That would have been in the PM 7 to 9. Is that?
The candidate pack, I was actually,
Yeah.
I think it was like 3 o'clock.
3?
Between
Oh.
10 and 5 on September 14th.
Okay.
Okay.
And to elaborate, yes, that would have been after Elise's comment.
Okay. So my follow-up question is, after submitting your candidate packet, did it ever occur to you that there might be some problem with the FBC or whether or not that you should again to check about the photo and the comment?
So what I did actually do is I did go back into the Facebook group as a whole. I knew that I don't post frequently, but I did realize that post because that's when I had fully read the FPC, and I personally didn't think at the time that or now that was a violation, especially given the fact that given the definition of candidacy and also given the definition of campaigning. I really don't think, especially because the FPC, the whole point of it is to level the playing field. I mean, I think a comment telling me that they're voting for me before I'm even a candidate that gets 2 likes, and then a comment made 4 days later, seen by however many people check the post that many days later, would necessarily unlevel the playing field.
Carly.
I just wanted to make it completely clear. Did you at any point consider that these comments could be seen by everyone on the group as promoting your candidacy? And if so, why didn't you do anything about it just to make sure it wasn't a violation?
So I think the main reason that I didn't consider that is probably because of the magnitude of comments. I think there was something like 30 comments on the page, so it started to feel more. It was very obvious which ones were talking to me and which ones were like trying to get laughs. Like somebody commented Big Ben, and it got like 35 likes. But then Claire told me it got my vote, and it got 2 likes. So I think it was apparent to me that there was a big difference between people that were trying to reach the audience of Penn Class of 2020 and the people that were personally responding to my post.
But you did consider that those comments could be seen as promoting your candidacy?
No, I saw them, especially in non-Elise's, because that was something that did not pertain to the candidacy or the voting period at all. It was a different choice that's being referred to. But in terms of Claire's comment, which got my vote, I obviously knew that was pertaining to the presidential election. But at that point, still in my mind, I didn't even truthfully know. So that's the main reason that I'm kind of confused with the definition of candidate, because announcing my candidacy is far from achieving 258 signatures and putting yourself out there and actually getting the right amount of people supporting you. So I think there's a very clear difference between what being a candidate who's running for president on the ballot and somebody who's just interested in politics at Penn. So to answer your question, I think that in terms of Claire's comment, I mean, I appreciated it. I thought to me, it told me that she thought it was a funny comment, but in no way did I think that would be convincing people. Something that I think would be the opposite of that would be somebody saying not very presidential, which that seems something he's not just trying to let me know that he personally thinks, it seems like something that's trying to reach a broader audience and trying to explain to people why this would make me a bad president, rather than just a personal interaction.
There's less than a minute left on the clock. Is there a motion? Spencer?
Motion to extend time by 10 minutes.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor? Time to extend by 10 minutes. Jack, Tally?
Yeah, I just have a question about, what was going through like your head since the, that first post that you took down and then received the email from God. You said at that point, you totally wanted to be class board president. And then, clearly, after the 14th, after you've gotten all those 58 signatures, and went on the campaign trail, you wanted to be class president. And you campaigned hard, worked very hard on the chalk. I'm wondering where in between you would like consider yourself no longer, according to the FPC, seeking the election to class board, because you said you started to question yourself. So are you saying you wanted to be class board president and then you were no longer seeking it when you posted this, and you came back to seeking it after you actually got the signature?
So I would say that like the gray area that we're worried about and the timeline that we're worried about pertains exactly to what you have mentioned with posts from February saying I'm running for class board president, which I think it's questioning the timeline that's outlined in the FPC of, well, how far back does it go? If somebody's early accepted and they want to run for class board president, and they state that, how would they know that that's actually illegal in terms of the FPC? So I think in terms of when was I seeking election? I mean, it was probably that Sunday, the Sunday after that Saturday night, that I started to realize that I would actually be able to do it, because I looked at my, the fact that I had a 30-person class the next day. Well, if I get all those signatures, that's 30, and I started to realize that was possible. I kind of got out of the dumps from the whole a cappella thing and realized that if I put all my passion into this, I could really make this happen if I put enough work into it, rather than just taking the L in both of them.
Sean Collins.
So my question is, was there ever a point in which you fully ceased stopping signatures, and then if there was, when was that, and when did you officially restart?
So I acquired 40 signatures, it was 42 exact signatures, and what I did is those are the only sheets I had printed out, and I had those printed out, and I had them on my bed, and then the whole week just started getting behind me. I ended up falling asleep in the quad one night. I live in Du Bois. I ended up falling asleep in the quad one night, so it just kind of turned into this separate thing. I was all worried on acapella, but then once that didn't happen, there was a definitive gap of probably 3 or 4 days where 0 signatures were acquired. And it was then that I had to get more sheets, and I printed that in Rachel's printer, and then I decided that I was going to do it. And so from on Sunday and on Monday and Tuesday, I was able to, and Wednesday was the day we turned them in, is that correct? And Wednesday morning, I was able to finish my signatures. And I didn't finish until actually during that before noon on Wednesday.
Right.
So my question is for Connor again. So Connor, you're a humorous guy, which is great. And it seemed to me that a lot of your campaign was centered around this humor. Using puns like vote right. So I guess my question is that if you were using that humor to solicit votes outside of Facebook and outside of this post, could the humor on the Facebook page also have been used to mayhap solicit votes?
So I would say that that'd be under the grounds of like more a personality trait that would extend into like all areas of my life, friendships, clubs, my academic work, just as if somebody is extremely professional and just looks like they're like Jordan wave. Like Jordan throughout the entire campaign, wearing the pantsuits, just looked like a great UA candidate. And she acts like that outside of the candidacy as well, so it could say, well, does her serious matter before she started running for, UA? Does that solicit votes? I think it's more of a personality trait that would naturally carry into another aspect of life.
Thank you.
So this is for Jack. Do you attribute your assertion of Connor like illegitimately campaigning more to his post specifically, or to like the attached comments afterward?
I would say both directly in violation of the FPC. So first would be that you are not allowed to contact
I forget what the exact wording is, but the word is contact on a class-wide Facebook group. And there's also just if you don't want to consider them surrogates, I still think there's the clause that I had cited earlier, which is may have violated the FPC, in which you have to directly and immediately take action to remedy that. So I think the NEC should certainly consider both charges, and I believe both hold merit. Can I respond to that in a way, or no?
Can I ask a follow-up, please? So in relation to the contacting part, would he be in violation if he posted something in the UPenn Class of 2020 thing when it first came out, which was in April of the following year? Like, is that something that is justified as like illegitimately trying to like solicit votes, something that happened way before anyone was considering campaigning?
I think we made it clear that if he was announcing his intent to campaign, which as soon as the Vice Chair for Elections did find out he announced his intent to campaign in the Facebook group, he was notified and immediately remedied the situation. So, in my interpretation of the FPC, yes, that technically is a violation. Usually it's best practice to reach out to that candidate if we find out about it and alert them to the violation. So to me, the previous act was the fact that the candidate was alerted to the violation, acknowledged the specific clauses that said you were not allowed to contact in the Facebook page, and then proceeded to post it.
Lucas? So this question is for Connor.
Okay.
When you saw Jack's post before yours, as yours was essentially created directly in response, did you think that Jack's post was an attempt to in some way bolster his campaign, and two, did you think that it was a violation of the FPC when you saw it?
In response to your first one, obviously that was argued earlier today. Personally, I can't attest to whether his intention was simply to make people laugh or to campaign. And then what was your follow-up?
Whether or not you thought it was a violation of the FPC.
I absolutely did not think it was a violation of the FPC, especially because I think the Penn Class of 2020 group is a way that a lot of people have made a lot of their really good friends, and all of us have continued to post and comment and like in there, whether it be finding a Penn card. That's where I got my Made in America ticket. So under the rules of inability to contact whatsoever, I think especially in future elections, the description should be a little more defined in the terms of, I think every candidate for every position would be disqualified under the terms of contacting people in that group, because we've all been active in that group since the day we were accepted to Penn. And I think it's important to note that I, for instance, wouldn't have been able to go to Made in America had I not contacted somebody in the UPenn 2020 group.
Jake?
So let me go back to this timeline a little bit. So I just want to understand, my understanding of your interpretation of what a candidate is that you were actively seeking to campaign for the position, right? My understanding is that's what the FPC says. So when between September 10th and September 14th did you attempt to solicit signatures for your campaign? And how do you then remedy the fact that while this post was up and while comments were made and while people explicitly referenced things related to a campaign, how do you remedy the fact that that all occurred while you actively solicited signatures for your campaign?
So in actuality, the only one that did reference an election or voting would have been Claire's, which would have been occurred not between the time in which I was seeking signatures. And in addition, I would like to say that I think there's an obvious discrepancy where there's the term saying that full candidacy is not until it's signed, and then it also says that a candidate, which is just a different form of the word candidacy, is actually just anybody in general seeking election, which then would extend all the way back to people from last year saying, hey, anybody else interested in student government? I want to run for UA. And there were a lot of those, and nobody remembers those when we're actually deciding who to vote for. So I think it's important to note the difference, and especially understand that people really started to pay attention to this election once signatures were in full throttle and once the papers were signed and we were officially on the ballot. That's when people started to say, now who am I going to vote for? Even when people signed the papers, they signed everybody's papers. I signed majority of the other president's papers because that's just what we had to do to get on the ballot. That doesn't mean that we were candidates yet and that we were in the full force of campaigning as candidates for class board.
There's less than a minute on the clock. Is there a motion?
Motion to Captain June.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor? All opposed? Queue's been capped, so Aiden.
Pass,
Jackson.
Sure, for Connor, you mentioned that, after like all the posts that transpired and everything, you went back and like looked to make sure that you didn't think that they were in violation of the FPC?
Yeah.
To make sure that they weren't? Can you clarify when your review took place? Was that after the candidates meeting, after things had been signed, or was it prior to that?
So that would have been in the, so the post was made on the 10th. That would have been when turning in my signatures.
So like before or after?
Within the same time period, I would say, whether it be like 10 minutes before, 10 minutes after, but it was before the candidates meeting, which was later that night. And the reason that happened was because somebody told me about the vote for Jack Talley comment, and I was like, oh my gosh, I hope there's not something that, so then I went back and looked at it, and I was like, okay, nobody's soliciting votes, so I think I'll be fine. And then later on came the comment with the Monica Lewinsky and but yeah.
Okay, thank you.
That'd have been on the 13th, which I guess would be the day before.
My question for Jake. Can you explain the process by which you discovered the two posts?
Sure. So the first post was discovered, I don't know exactly who brought it up, but the vice chair for elections found it on September 1st, immediately reached out to Connor. I don't know exactly how that happened, but I think it was, I actually have no idea. The second post was, that was all included in the original FPC charge that was not from the NEC. And that's how we found that one, and then I heard explain sort of how we.
Can I follow up? So just continuing with that, kind of what's been discussed thus far, were all posts from potential candidates vetted, or just by, say, the vice chair or anyone else in the NEC on that page?
No.
Steven. Yeah, so you mentioned, this is for Connor.
Okay.
You mentioned multiple times that both Elise and Claire's comments were like kind of personally directed toward you and almost like equatable to like a text or a DM. How are you making that demarcation between what was intended like for the whole class group and what was just like an inside joke with you?
So I think it was not only how it was perceived by myself, but how it was perceived by the class as a whole. Elise's especially, you don't make inside jokes to 2,500 people because one person's going to get it. But because it happened to be, vulgar and happened to, reference something that was funny, then yes, it could gain more attention. But the fact that it doesn't pertain to the election would therefore it can gain as much attention as she wants it to. In terms of the got my vote, LOL, I would say that it's important to note that there's a difference between campaigning and saying an opinion or stating a fact. And then you can see that on every level, of government past just college and in the real world. And I think it's evident in the fact that campaigning results in some sort of call to action, or it results in some sort of providing information. So that's like saying an "I voted today" sticker would be campaigning. It's just it's different in the sense that when you're campaigning, you're telling people where to vote. You're telling people when to vote. You're telling people somebody's platform and why to vote for them. You're not telling an individual candidate, hey, it's got my vote, especially if it's written in a joke format.
Thank you. So that reaches the end of the queue, the end of Q&A. So the NEC will now move into deliberations. So we'd we thank everyone for coming today. We thank the members of the public for their questions. We thank the candidates for their thoughtful responses and presentations. Yes, so we will be moving into deliberations. So we'd ask the general public to please leave. And then you'll be notified tonight by email of the election results.
Emailing, depending on the timing,
Yeah.
we might have results in person, and so we'll email that out, and then we'll probably be.
So please just check your emails.
Thank you.